Down a darkened drive, you'll find their candlelight. From a widow's peak, you'll see it burning bright. Through the double doors into their dusty tomb, you'll feel eyes from paintings follow room to room. On the creaky stairs, you may think twice as you tell yourself those bangs are mice. In the upstairs hall, you'll see shadows dance. There's a light from the candle, this is your only chance. You run and you cry as you curse this dark night, only to find at the end there's no candlelight. Instead, there's some headphones you put on full of fear. When suddenly it's every nightmare rolled into one that you hear. And it says, "Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we were like heralded by an old friend. It was a strange thing to happen out of nowhere, but it really wasn't out of nowhere because it's us and it's weird and that's just the way things work.
Yes.
I actually had a message from an old friend, an old paranormal friend, not a ghost, but damn near it. And well, that doesn't sound very nice, does it? I don't mean that I don't mean that he's like ready to die. I meant like he's like so paranormal that there's just no saving that.
No.
So anyway, we might just move on from that without. No, I had a friend that he left a message and it was on our website, paranormalsideshow.com, and just saying hi and everything. You know, nice that you guys are back in the South. And this was from about the time that we got back in the South, but somehow the message showed red, or you know, whatever, like we had read it,
right?
And we had not. So it was really strange. And we were just going through and like, oh, we could delete this one, we could delete that one, because it's a little different on the paranormalsideshow.com email, because some things are like invites and, you know, hey, could you guys come and do this? Could you guys go to hell? Whatever. So we were going through those and I was like, hold on a second. That's kind of strange. So anyway, it was our old buddy, the caretaker. And from the Third Side days, for those of you who remember, for those of you who know, if you know, then you know. And it's pretty impressive if you know. So anyway, it was pretty cool because the place that we used to record in there, which he had created this, you know, studio for us. And that's where we did the Third Side YouTube show.
Right.
And which is just maybe some of the funniest YouTube television, if you will, that you will ever see. If you've watched it, then you've laughed. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. So, you know, somehow we need to arrange that. If you haven't watched it, I'm going to have to, you know what, I'm writing a note down right now. I want to see what we can do about making sure people watch that.
Right.
But anyway, I digress. So we were talking because he actually, you know, I sent him a message after I seen that, and he called me. We were catching up, good stuff, and he knew about the, you know, some of the stuff and the book and Waddle-daddle, all that stuff. But it was a great catch up. And then he told me that the place has now become a full-fledged Shinto shrine.
Wow.
And it has two sister shrines. So in Japan, and it's fully recognized and, you know, accredited. I don't know what they do to it.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know the process there.
I don't know the process on all that either. But you know, as always, there was an incredible story, and I can't tell it, which I would love to, but it just went into the lore of the place and really just in how haunted the place is, how
it's always been very active and creepy there.
Well, it's more active and creepy now in a different way, is what he was talking, because we suggested heavily the skull experiment. To, you know, we were like, you know, we should all get a group of psychics, skeptics, all this like-minded people, and sit around a table and do seances and see if we can have any like old underwear drop out of the ceiling,
like
you know?
The same time every week.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the Skull Experiment, old school documentary, then you were really missing out. And if you love the paranormal,
You need to, it's the Afterlife Investigations. I always remember the title of it. You can find that documentary anywhere cheap, cheesy, old documentaries are. Like if you go to Amazon, you know how you can look up, butt fungus, and it's got like, there's a documentary on butt fungus. It's that kind of thing. It's probably on Amazon. It's probably, if not, definitely on YouTube, the Afterlife Investigations. And it's on there. The whole thing's really interesting, but when they go into the skull experiment, when Stacey and I first seen that, and that was years and years and years ago, when we first watched that, we were so excited. I can't even tell you, like it really, not many things grab our attention. And I guess that comes from, like we started out with a shadow man running through the daylight, it's hard to really get us after that, but it got us. And we were like, wow, that would be great to do with like-minded individuals, same time every week. And, some of the things that would happen would be like a newspaper would fall from the 30s where the spirits were just like, we want to show you this.
Right. And they would bring in unopened film canisters.
I knew you were going to say that. That's your favorite
my favorite thing. And they wouldn't even have been opened. Completely sealed box, had skeptics looking at it and verifying that they were not opened. And then they would take the film and go have it developed, even though it had never been gone through a camera. And there would be images on the film and people's faces and writing, I think. And
like pictures from the past.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
Amazing timey-wimey stuff that is some of the coolest stuff ever. I love that. That's one of the things I miss about film over digital.
Right.
Something about film. I was thinking the other day, and I'll get back to what I'm talking about here, but I was thinking the other day about how bad I want a reel-to-reel recorder. I really do. I want a reel-to-reel recorder. And I need one for investigations.
Right.
You can, and so I looked it up. That's how deep I went here. You can buy them like easily.
Yeah.
And they've actually come back into popularity again.
Oh, we need to get one.
Yeah, I gotta have one.
Yeah.
I want the one in a briefcase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a lot of them. When you look it up, it's like the old school. It's a big contraption. I want the one in a briefcase that's like the 1975 Paranormal flick. Where the ghost hunters show up,
right?
And they're like, and they open the case, and they're kind of looking across. They're they're a little bit skeptical. They've got their tweed suit on, and
I was gonna say I'm gonna buy you the tweed jacket with the elbow patches.
Right. And well, that's who I have to become. This person,
right?
Have to become this person. I want the epic mustache. Just I'm talking so thick, and you never mess with it. And
can I get you the big pair of glasses too?
Oh, I would do it. I would do it. Just if I tripped all over the place, it wouldn't matter. I would do it. But I love that old equipment. I love the Polaroids. It's funny, we were watching Ghost Adventures, and I noticed he used a Polaroid, and I was like, what the hell? It's like their equipment keeps going back. Like the tri-field meter is my favorite piece of equipment, EMF wise, probably ever.
Right.
And it's the oldest EMF.
You don't see a lot of people using it.
There is. Well, now it's coming back, and it's just like they use the old Panasonic recorder that everybody loves to use, and honestly,
you can't hardly get anymore.
Yeah, because they haven't been made for how many years? 10 years.
Yeah.
But I don't want one. Like the thing about that is, our friend Serena Gordon has always used that. It's great that you get stuff off that, but it is so back asswards from so many years ago. I don't like all the static extra to it.
Right.
And, I don't want the big, because we had a Zoom full room recorder and all that. I hated that.
Too much.
Yeah,
because
you could hear, cats having sex like 2 counties over.
It was a lot. And I feel like the recorders that we use now, we've used them for so long. It's like we get good stuff with them because they're
haunted.
They're ours. Yeah.
Yeah, they're broke in.
It's like we've used them for so long that.
Well, unfortunately, you have to get a new one because there's not even software to.
Yeah, mine's pretty old.
Yeah, you can't even. If I wanted to, I couldn't use anything from yours. That's how old it is.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And then you get the collection of ones that you've stolen from other people by accident.
Right, because you've picked them up on an investigation. Then you don't remember whose they are.
The static recorders. Hey, Jimmy, why don't you stick your static recorder over there, and we'll be sure to get it later. And then by the end of the night, they're so scared or tired.
How many do you think we've left in locations?
Oh, God. Several.
It seems like every time.
I know I lost my favorite Sony or your favorite Sony.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the black one.
Yeah.
I know we would go on investigation to be like, I know we have more recorders than this.
Yeah.
Where are all our recorders? And be like, oh, wait, did you ever pick up that one from
Right.
that room?
Well, the big question is how many camcorders have we broke? That's the big one.
A lot.
My God. I mean, we've broke them out of the box. I don't know how it happens, but it's always like, we have bad luck with camcorders, folks. We get like the really cool night shot and everything. And as soon as we get it, the damn thing, the viewfinder normally is cracked, or something will happen on the first investigation, because we're getting ready to get another new one, and it's really nice. It's about as it's like the step under getting just a pro camera, but a Sony, because we love the Sonys with the night shot. It's just easy that way. But yeah, we're re-upping on that. But anyway, the caretaker, Rick, great friend, and it's really cool because he got a hold of us, and we've chronicled things about our Shinto shrine that we were at, and the heaviness there. We've chronicled the paranormal experience that I had with Raja in depth, where we were there and this giggling was happening, running around the room. And folks, that was 1000% exactly like I describe it. Our friend and Raja and myself were standing there and running around the room. You could hear the little footsteps, and it was giggling as it went. I will never forget it. She will never forget it. It guaranteed that Raja will never go on a paranormal investigation, all because of this. And it's one of those things I talk about a lot. I talk about paradigm shifting, this and that. When it really happens, and I know a lot of you out there have had that event that's happened. You know what I'm talking about. And it don't have to be paranormal I'm talking about right now. 9/11, 2001, there's a paradigm shifting event, okay? In no way, shape, or form am I comparing the magnitude to that, but I'm saying that changed things.
Right.
And, this is one of those deals that changed things, and it happened at this place. Not the only thing that's happened there. I was over a decade ago was the first time I investigated that place. And then it was years later that he contacted me. And the weird thing is, I had a dream about the place, and it's just there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of closure. So cool stuff, because you'll probably hear some good evidence coming surrounding that here in the not too distant future.
Yes, because we have to go.
Oh, absolutely. It's calling. And speaking of calling, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
A blue moon.
Blue moon. Okay.
Yeah, give me the definition, in your opinion, of a blue moon.
Well, here's the thing about a blue moon. There is a definition of a blue moon that's not the technical definition of a blue moon. Most people think it's the second full moon in a month.
Right.
And it does fall like that sometimes, but I believe there's a more detailed and technical definition of a blue moon.
You know what? I am so blown away, happy that your witchiness just your witchiness just really gave me some satisfaction. I honestly didn't know if you would know or not, but yes, it is having an extra full moon.
It's like in a harvest cycle or something like that. It's an
extra full moon in a season, and between equinoxes and solstices,
right?
To have that extra full moon,
right?
So we have one coming on May 18th.
Awesome.
And so it's actual full blue moon, on May 18th, and you'll see it for like 3 nights or whatever, but magic's really strong during that time, if you're into that kind of jam or not, I don't know. But it was interesting to me because I've always thought that a blue moon was having 2 full moons in a month. That's just what I always thought.
Yeah.
Until I was looking this up for the show. I was like, oh, hey, there's a blue moon. Let me just look this up. And I don't know why, but I wanted to look up what a blue moon was for sure, even though I knew in my heart that it was 2 in a month. Okay. Right. But I still looked it up. That's just strange. And then when I did, I found out where the gaffe actually happened. In 1946, a magazine called Sky and Telescope accidentally described as 2 in a month.
Oh, wow.
Before that, it was never known as that. It was always the extra one in a season.
Wow, and just that one misprint in
Undoubtedly,
one magazine.
Everybody in the damn world must have had Sky and Telescope magazine in 1946. It's just really strange how that stuff kind of...
How it stuck.
Yeah.
It's probably because that's a lot easier to understand.
Right.
Like if somebody is talking about a blue moon and somebody just casually mentions, oh, it's the second full moon in a month, that's a lot easier to remember than...
Yeah, but that happens a lot more often than an actual full moon, which is about once every 2.5 years.
Right. Blue moons are actually much more rare.
Just like the saying, once in a blue moon, which means very rarely, and I use that a lot. But I thought it was really cool. I thought you'd find it interesting that it was 1946 Sky and Telescope.
Yeah, I never knew how that came about. And I believe the reason I even know about the blue moon is because of a story we did. Well, I can't even remember how long ago.
We've done thousands of stories.
Yeah, and I think I ended up looking it up, and that's when I learned. Because I always thought it was the second one in a month for a long time.
Really, though, you think about it, and you look around with like pagan magic and stuff, they wouldn't go by modern calendars.
No.
So it would go more by a seasonal type, earthbound deal.
Right.
With, something that's not more celestial.
Right.
It's not going to go about a 30-day, 31 days or crap like that.
Right.
Wouldn't make sense.
Right.
And there is references. The first reference of a blue moon, insane once in a blue moon, goes all the way back to the 16th century.
Wow.
That they were calling it that.
Yeah.
Which is odd as well. So just cool little fact I thought I'd throw out there since, there'll be one next week. Speaking of next week, I like to do that when it has nothing to do with the next thing I'm talking about. I like to make the worst segues possible.
I see.
Micro content.
Yes.
So we're asking our friends, which is you, to help us out a little bit. Okay, so we are wanting always to expand the show and the popularity of the show, which has grown by leaps and bounds and leaps and sheep and everything, especially sheep. But with that popularity, we want to keep going. We want to make it bigger and bigger and better and all that good stuff. So utilizing our YouTube channel, some people, there's a lot of people actually that listen to us through YouTube. And of course we have some of our documentaries on the channel. We have vlogs on the channel and all that good stuff that, people have really dug. And we've went back and forth with like this week, the weird this week or whatever we put. And, that was fun for us, but at the same time, it was just hard to, really keep up with that like we wanted to. So what we did is we are getting ready to launch, I should say, some micro content. And really, like if you're on YouTube a lot, like Joe Rogan will have the little clips. They're 5-8 minutes. Sometimes they're 12 minutes, but conversations from his otherwise 4-hour show that is pretty much uploaded daily. Okay. And that's the whole trick to this is a lot of uploads, and it's just a little micro content from the bigger show that brings people to that show, or maybe they just dig it on, on the micro content on YouTube, whatever. It gets the word out. And more so just to bring people to the show. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch this coming up probably in a week or so and really try to get a few loaded in there right off the bat with, some funny stuff and some side splitting things and, some of the more interesting stories that we've done.
Right. From the past episodes.
From the past. And we're just talking about the Paranormal Sideshow episodes. But so I wanted to ask you guys, is there anything in the history of the Sideshow that you remember as being, where you were in the floor crying and soiling yourself and all this good stuff because you were laughing so hard? If so, drop us a line, let us know what that was. And you don't have to have the exact episode or anything. If you kind of remember, that would be a lot more helpful. But that or some kind of story that was intriguing or scary or, something that really just you loved. Just something that you loved, some little part of the show that stuck with you and made you come back, or just something that made you remember. And, that would be two things here. That would be very cool to us, just to know that something we said left a mark on you. Even if it was a funny bone mark, that's fine.
Right.
Or if it was, just something, like I said, just something really interesting or, creepy or whatever. Just, because we're going back through and trying to look for these little things to throw out there and just do some little micro content.
Yes, and it is very time consuming because this is episode 80.
Right.
That's a lot of episodes.
Right.
It's a lot of episodes to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Speaking of time consuming, This past week at #BruceWayneJob.
Oh, very time consuming.
Yeah, that one worked.
Segue made sense.
Yeah,
yes,
at least
okay.
won a show. Anyway, I had a couple of people that I work with that I don't get to see very much. And they came in and sort of, we had to go to some of my stores and check out some of my stores. That's, blah, blah, blah. That kind of stuff happens.
Work.
Yeah, but I was able to give them each a book. And
oh, I'm sure they appreciated that.
yeah, and it's cool. And just, I don't know. I just really enjoy the fact that they're going to really find out exactly how strange I am.
Yes, they are.
It's a big difference. Bruce Wayne me and Batman me
right.
are very, very different.
Yes, I agree.
We are absolutely different people. So it's fun when you mix those worlds a little bit because they're just like, wait a second, this guy. But hey, another segue that works. Mm-hmm. Speaking of that book,
yep.
If you are interested in it, what is the name of that book again?
It's called Till Death and Beyond, The Haunted Journey of John and Stacey Edwards.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That sounds awesome.
And it just so happens we talked about that book on a show of Jim Harold's.
Right.
That is now out.
Yeah, and that's called Ghost Insight.
Ghost Insights.
And it's only available where?
It's part of his Paranormal Plus Club.
Yes.
Which you have to subscribe to, but he does have a special going on where you can get the first month for like $1 or some crazy low price.
Wow, it's almost like that was out there just so you could hear our interview with Jim Harold on Ghost Insight.
Yes, and if you go ahead and sign up for the Paranormal Plus Club and to listen to our episode, I believe it's number 123, 123, because that's cool. Check out some of his other shows. He's got some great stuff.
He has a lot. There is honestly like a cornucopia of shows.
There are. He works hard.
It's honestly, this guy just does this from morning to night. Trust me, we know, because a couple of times it didn't line up correctly, not because of other guests, not because of us, but it was really cool getting on there with him because I've listened to Jim since 2009, and he really, when I listened to him, it was Jim. If you looked up Paranormal Podcast, there was him. There was a smattering of a couple of episodes of that Tinny had done, but that wasn't a continuous week after week thing, and that was it, man. So that's when I decided to do Haunted South Paranormal Podcast because I really love the idea of the podcast. Still do, thankfully. But Jim is one of those, man. He's the OG. He is the OG in the podcast field, and he does a great job. Pleasant, freaking nice, amazing guy. So if you want to listen to Jim interview us, it is called Ghost Insight. And again, it's on the Paranormal Plus Club from Jim Harold. And there is a special for very low amount of money.
Yes. And I believe he titled the episode Till Death and Beyond. And then our names are there, John and Stacey Edwards. So it'd be easy to find. Yeah.
And if you wanted to find out more about us in that book, how could they do that?
They can buy the book on Amazon.com. Just search Till Death and Beyond. Or you can go to the website, ParanormalSideshow.com, and we sell them on our website as well, and we'll even autograph it if you order it from us. And now you can get it on Amazon for $14.99, and on our website it's $20, but that includes shipping and autographs. So
yes, and Stacey kisses the cover of every one we send out. Little known fact, I won't tell you what I do to it, but
that's after I kiss it.
Yeah, it's after she kisses it. It's all related, though. We'll just put it that way. Speaking of cool interviews, this is another one that works.
Yeah, okay.
So, friend of the show, our buddy, Alan Marston.
Yes.
Alan Marston is the guest on Realm of Shadows. I'm sorry, John and Stacey's Realm of Shadows.
What an interesting episode that was.
It was one of my favorite interviews. It was one of my favorite I'll call it a conversation. One of my favorite conversations that I've had in a very long time. It's, if you like long, in-depth conversations, all concerning the paranormal and all serious, then you're going to love Realm of Shadows. We purposely are the complete opposite of what we are here. Realm of Shadows is like if John and Stacey actually worked at this.
Right. Well, and we picked a topic, but we do tend to stray off topic a bit, but it's still all paranormal related.
Baby, we're always going to stray off topic.
We can't keep it straight, can we?
No, it's going to always stray off topic, but that's part of the fun because Realm of Shadows is designed to start with a keyword and we'll go from there. it's a conversation amongst, like minds. So whenever we have a guest come on, we just want to, just imagine you each have a cup of coffee or whatever, and you're sitting there with maybe a candle lit over in the corner of some, little pub or something, and you're gonna, well, I guess you wouldn't have coffee in the pub, but work with me here. And we're gonna have some kind of conversation about the paranormal, and that's what we do. And it's really, this time we start out with a really cool topic, and I don't want to give anything away, but the way you would listen to this would be how?
Well, it is our Patreon only exclusive show just for our patrons. So you would sign up to be a patron at the second tier, which is $5 a month. And then you have access to all of our back catalog, which is the Haunted South episodes, which are still going up. We haven't quite got them all up there yet. They're still going up every week. And then you would have access to the Realm of Shadows
Absolutely.
show, which there are now 2 episodes, but we have more getting ready to record very soon.
Yeah, and it's a really cool time. So if you want to go do that, and much appreciated for anything that comes, with the Patreon. And the thing with that is, if anybody has ever put everything back in, it's us. Because, absolutely, just like I said before, equipment wise, expansion wise, things we're trying to do even with the micro content, the newsletter, just the time wise, Stacey spends an exorbitant amount of time a week on editing, a little bit of editing, and doing the newsletter and finding the news and all this good stuff. So basically, man, if she didn't have 10 full-time jobs already, that's another one. And she is the mistress of the podcast. I mean, she just really takes care of all the stuff, and really we all appreciate that, right? And speaking of her newsletter, see, I'm doing another one here.
I see. See, you've been working on this Subway thing.
Yeah.
It's working out.
So speaking of the newsletter, if you want Stacey's awesome newsletter that has a little bit from everybody, you can sign up for that at paranormalsideshow.com.
Yes.
That's the place to find all this. If you forget, we have a link for all of it.
Yes, there's a link right on the front page, either at the top of the menu it says newsletter, or right on the front. You go there, it's a place for you to sign up, and there are links for all the past issues that you may want to check out. I know that it has, the news is kind of timely, but we do add like movie reviews, and Roger writes fiction, and even Ariana does little bits for it. So there's always something interesting in there to read. Absolutely.
And like I said, everything can be found on paranormalsideshow.com, including, links to the podcast, to this podcast. And at the very base and core of all of this, we just want you to tell your friends and subscribe. Leave us a review. That would be awesome. Especially if you're like iTunes or something like that. Leave us a big, nice review. And same thing with the book. If you're getting the book, just go there and leave us a big old 25-star review. But speaking of 25 stars, here's Stacey with Paranormal News.
She's the GOAT of paranormal news, traveling the globe to find you the stories you didn't know you needed to hear, and the stories she knows you'll never forget. It's time for Stacey Edwards and Paranormal News.
So let's get to the news.
Let's.
All right. So the first couple of stories I'm going to do are some updates from some recent stories that we've had. Yes. Is that our update music?
Update. Stacey's got an update just for you.
All right, so this first one is about the Yeti footprints
that
were found by the Indian Army, and they tweeted the picture.
And not the Apaches or anything.
Right,
it was
like from India.
Yeah, from India.
And they had several pictures.
Yes.
And they posted them on their Twitter and claimed that they were Yeti footprints, that's what they thought they were.
They were Yeti.
And the footprints were huge. They were like 32 by 15 inches.
And means they had an enormous feet.
Exactly. And so now this claim is being refuted by Nepal's army. And they decided they were going to go check it out.
What do you call Nepal's army?
That's
like Neapolitan or
no, I guess Nepalese army.
Nepalese?
Maybe. I'm guessing.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
So the army from Nepal.
So the army from Nepal.
Which, by the way, Who the hell knew there was an army in Nepal?
I guess they do have one.
And what's the cause? You know,
I have no idea.
That's really crazy. Okay, go ahead.
So they went to the location where the footprints were found, and when they got there, of course, the footprints were not there anymore. It's been several weeks. There was nothing there. The snow had covered them. They had blown away or whatever.
Was there any scat?
There wasn't anything, I don't think.
I love it when I see them.
So
and they're like, we found some scat, you know. If I was a Bigfoot, I would just, every time I would go as close down to the humans as I could go. And after just a big old morning of berry eating, berries and deer, I'd just get in there and just be like, it just, you know, they would be like hearing me down at the parking lot. They'd be like, oh my God, did you hear that yell? Tim, did you hear it? I did, Jim. I did.
Is that where the vocalizations come from?
Yeah, let's listen again. Hold on. And finally, I would drop the log. I'd leave, and that way they could come up there, and me and my buddies, you know, my sassy buddies, would be up there like listening, you know, like shh, shh, shh. And then they'd be like, be quiet, dude. Be quiet. Be like, oh my God, Jim. What is it, Tim? I found some scat. I don't know why. I love it when they find scat.
Why do they call it scat? Do they just not want to admit they're picking up poop?
You know, whenever I hear scat, unfortunately, the one thing in my head, it doesn't matter if I'm watching a Bigfoot documentary or not. The only thing in my head, because it's just the way John's head works, is like, you know.
I'm a scat man.
That's all I got. I just, you know, like, I want to be out in the woods and just do that. And just, I'm a scat man. You know, it's just awesome. But anyway, completely off course.
Yes. And I'm not sure where I am in the story, but I'm just going to continue anyway. So, the Nepal army, they went to the location.
Yes.
They didn't find any, footprints because it's been a while.
And then they didn't find any.
So
scat.
They decided, according to the Nepal army spokesman, whose name is Bigyan.
Is it really?
It is Bigyan.
Bigyan.
I guess so. He said the liaison officers went to that spot, didn't find anything, so they talked to some of the locals. And according to the locals, unusual footprints appear frequently in the area and are made by wild bears. I don't know why he specified wild bears. I don't know that they have not wild bears.
Well, they have those poker playing bears that come down and get drunk every now and then.
So this article claims
they
that
have a key to the local jail. They just come let themselves in and like, not Paul. How you doing? doing pretty good, Smoke. I'm gonna go ahead and yeah, man.
You live in a strange world. So the comments by the Nepal army match what some wildlife experts have said, that what they saw were bear footprints that had been enlarged by the sun and the wind. So this is what
were the bears enlarged by the sun and the wind?
No,
because these were some really big footprints.
The footprints. And what I don't understand is
we have a weird sun here. It's kind of like the Swamp Thing. The damn bears get out in the sun and it's like that's enlarging sounds.
I see.
And the other problem is, and I think you're getting there. Did the bear have 1 foot?
Or 2 feet on one side of its body?
One big foot that just kind of hops?
Well, that's what I was thinking, because in the picture, the prints are very in one line. And if you look at bear footprints, they have legs on both sides of their bodies, so there's more of a zigzaggy pattern.
There is a zigzag.
I don't think...
There's 4 as well.
It's a tiptoeing bear that steps 1 foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
so why in the world did Nepal come there in the first place to check this out?
I guess they decided because it was so close to their border that they just wanted to go, and they didn't believe the claims, so they wanted to go check it out for themselves. They didn't really give a reason behind why they would do that. I mean, they could have just left it alone, but I don't feel like someone that didn't see the footprints and just asked some locals about what kind of footprints they see occasionally is better evidence than someone who was there and saw it and took pictures and measured, and and like you said, the stride is huge and they're all in a straight line. It just does not look like bear footprints to me.
I'm going to give a little blockbuster here for our listeners. I think it's time. I think they should know.
Okay.
Here, hold on, let me change hats. Got to put my conspiracy hat on.
Is that one made of tin foil?
It is not, but thank you for saying that. So, actually, it sounds like the Nepalese army came there to cover the story, because it was a really big deal that the Indian army came out and said this, man. That was really, it's a credible source or whatever. And I think that there in Nepal, there's some temples that for thousands of years have been, they have paid them, or by not eating them, to protect the Sasquatch,
right?
Or the Yetis. And so, I could see maybe the Yeti is their chief and stays up in that upper room, And anyway, you only see him at like the 33rd level.
Right.
But no, it's just weird that they went out there, and it does smell fishy. It just does, because if you look at the pictures, it's not just one of the stories. It's not just a story.
Right.
It's a story with pictures. And the pictures look remarkably large and with a big stride. And it doesn't look like a bear unless the bear's feet were tied together. And it was literally hopping quite a ways.
One foot to the other.
Very spry bear, especially for the deep snow. So I don't know. I just don't know how enlarged and the sun and the wind could have done. I mean, it's a great theory.
It is. It is.
It really is. It's maybe possible, I guess, but I can't see it. And if you look at the pictures, I just can't see it from the way the pictures are. I mean, it's bad enough that it was a Yeti. I mean, it really looks like they were trying to make the Yeti walk the drunk line. But possibly just because of the stride or whatever, it just worked that way. So I don't know. Maybe it's not a Yeti, but I sure as hell don't think it's a bear.
Right, right. And like you said, it was weird that they even tried to go and investigate it anyway. So, all right, well, let's move on to our next update. And this is about the asteroid simulation test that we talked about they were going to do, where they were testing their disaster preparedness by using the whole asteroid's going to strike Earth scenario.
Which you thought was remarkably weird because of the God of Chaos asteroid that, supposedly is not going to hit us.
Right, that we're not going to need this for, but
they gave a groovy name to.
Is similar in every way. Yes. So in this exercise, it was set up by what they call planetary defense. They meant to gauge what would happen if we were unable to deflect a giant space rock that happened to be hurtling towards America's most populous city. So supposedly in the scenario, the asteroid would explode 9 miles above Central Park sometime in, 7 years from now.
Right.
And they said it would have 1,000 times the energy of the nuclear bomb that decimated Hiroshima. I mean, very powerful.
Wow.
So in the simulation, Manhattan is completely destroyed, and the damage extends as far out as 42 miles from the epicenter. So all of that very heavily populated area is just gone.
Wow.
And so this scenario, it's meant to provoke questions. It's meant for them to try and figure out what they would do in that situation, how they would go about evacuating people, what would the problems be.
Be a mess.
It would be. And even one woman that was playing what she called an angry citizen was claiming that I guess they gave them like 2 months to evacuate the whole area. And she was like, that is not really enough time, because people, when they evacuate, they're not just leaving and then coming back. In that kind of scenario, everything's going to be destroyed. You're gonna have to relocate. You're gonna have to find a new place to go. You're gonna have to get a U-Haul. I mean, there's 10 million people.
We wouldn't.
There's not enough U-Hauls for that.
They tell me it's gonna hit here, and I'm on a boat or something. I mean, we're out of here, man.
Right.
Give me every scenario, please. Like, what's your margin of error? What states would that include? Okay. We're going to, Norway for a while.
Right.
I mean, Jesus, it's not that big of a, I get it. Most people are tied to their possessions like that, and they would have to do it, but we just never have been. I mean. Well,
one of the questions that they posed was, they're saying that it's unknown how Americans would actually behave in the face of this kind of scenario. And the example she gave was like, if you knew that your house was going to be destroyed 6 months from now, are you going to still keep paying your mortgage?
Right.
No, I'm going to use that money to relocate to another place in the in
Right.
the United States. And so just a lot of those different things that you would normally not think about needing. I guess that's what they were discussing. But again, I find the whole scenario very strange just in light of, this whole asteroid that's going to be coming by. And again, they felt the need to point out that it was not going to hit us. It was just going to fly by very closely.
That asteroid has me thinking. It just reminded me of something. So, we've chronicled before, I spend a lot of time looking at YouTube things and reviewing other people's channels and stuff. Mr. BB333 is one of my favorites, just because he's got one of those pleasant voices, just like, hey guys, how you doing? It's nice to have you by. Let me show you some things that could kill us. But on the video for Thursday, May 9th, he had some interesting things with fireballs, and I love seeing the fireballs because they're just insane. Especially the long duration ones. And I mean, seriously, long duration. He had one from Indonesia, one of his watchers and followers, Fatir out of Indonesia. Go look this up. This is pretty cool. It's in East Java in Indonesia. There was a long duration fireball that was captured by this Fatir character. And it is pretty amazing. I mean, it didn't just burn up. It honestly looks like a UFO is on fire going across the earth there. Sometimes they actually come into our atmosphere and go back out into space just because they're just shooting across. But very interesting stuff. I love that kind of, I don't like the thought of having God's armpit or whatever that asteroid is coming to destroy us, but a pretty cool stuff. And we were talking about, while we're talking about space and crazy stuff, I have to mention something I meant to mention in the monologue. Okay. There has been an amazing amount of mainstream news taken from, especially just the last couple of months, like the fast radio burst, things like that. And of course, the big announcement that the Navy was reclassifying how they take in their UFO sightings. And basically, it's okay, guys, you can tell us about it. And they're not just saying there's just a few of them. They're saying that it's all the time. And they have several a month, and they're not making any bones about it. So that has got the attention of Tucker Carlson, who is a nighttime, pretty much a talk show opinion host. It's not really the straight news. He's more, leaning toward a certain political party. But on the Tucker Carlson show, he has been carving out time to actually talk about UFOs.
Right after he does all his political stuff, then he just does these UFO stories.
Right, not even in a tongue-in-cheek way.
In a very serious way.
Very into it, very interested. This is really strange. And he started actually, I remember the nucleus of this was during the To the Stars Academy, the release of the two videos that had come out that were official government videos of UFOs, man. And so that got the attention, and it's just kept going from there. And now this big thing that happened with the Navy, right? That obviously got it. And he comes on there and he goes, I wonder why no one else is talking about this. He's like, and he says what we always do, but he goes, why isn't this the top story in every newspaper in the country and on every TV station? Right. Why? And it's funny because seeing the wheels turning on somebody who hasn't been in it forever.
Right. Who's just now realizing it. And it's funny, you and your segues. I was actually going to talk about this in the next story. So you've just led right into it beautifully. We watched one of his UFO pieces the other night, and he had, one of his guests, he had Nick Pope on at one point, and they were talking, and, they were talking about that To the Stars Academy, and when it all came out about the Pentagon, and their secret UFO program. And when we did that story back then, and I thought this was really interesting, there was a little piece in that story, just like a little line where it talked about how they had given money, to the company to research it for them. And that company had redone warehouses in the city to store things that they found during their UFO investigations. Metals. It specifically said metal alloys and things like that. And these places are specifically designed to house those things. And it was not, nobody really talked about that a lot. We mentioned it because it was in the article.
Actually, I'm going to give you full credit on that.
And we were like,
she came to me and going, I think it's weird, John. She goes, there's articles everywhere on this. Obviously, it's taken the world by storm. But they're really not mentioning this part that is really deeply buried kind of. It's in the story.
It's way down. Yeah, way down in the story.
It talks about these warehouses in Las Vegas that have from the recovery teams and has the recoveries of these metal alloys and the UFOs themselves. Like, they have the wreckage and they've got a place where they're storing it. You know, is that not the bigger story?
I don't think they ever said like wreckage, like whole UFOs or anything. I think it was just.
Well, I was just thinking, like, if you had, like, say I had a couple of tires and I don't know, half of an engine, you might think I was storing stuff from a car, you know, that had a wreck. And that was what I was thinking. Like, you're totally right. We especially if stuff like this, we have to be careful how we phrase it and say it.
Right.
So they're just saying that they have metals.
They have little like pieces of metal.
Right.
They're not specifying how big they are, how small they are, or what they are. But
it's a warehouse.
It was really strange that was buried in the story. But Tucker Carlson pointed that out.
Yeah.
And talked about it, and that's when he was saying, you know, why isn't this talked about? Why isn't this? And it was just very strange.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's, again, you know, is that going to change anything, like where other people start looking at it? Hopefully that will make other people start reporting on it. I don't know, but everything that's been happening here recently in the last couple of years, pretty much the last 2 years especially, has been strange. It's been very strange for people who have been in to UFOs for a very long time and have been laughed at and ridiculed and everything else, because all of a sudden people are listening to the band that you like. You know, the little indie band that you really dug, all of a sudden has got some hit singles. Right.
Well, the whole point of bringing up the Tucker Carlson thing, the story that I had was sort of an update on that, the Navy changing their policies, because a spokesman for the Office of the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Information Warfare. That is quite a long name.
I want to see I want to see the like the thing on his desk. You know, I want to see like his
it's like
name
really
thing.
long. He made a statement and said that the Navy expects to keep the information it gathers private. So even though they've created this way for their pilots and their personnel to report what they see, this does not necessarily mean that we as the public are going to find these things out, because, you know, in the process of them reporting, obviously they're going to have to give up a lot of classified information. You know, they saw it when they were on this mission that's classified, or they were, you know, in this classified piece of machinery, or something about it's going to be a classification, and that means it's not going to be something that's just let out to the public. So, you know, the update is they did come out and say, you know, we are doing this, but you don't expect to hear anything about it. I think they are hoping that eventually they'll maybe release general data, you know, like how many reports or that sort of thing.
Right.
But, or maybe there'll be a leak or a whistleblower or something.
And that's what I was going to say. Listen, I know you're listening right now. I know that the guy's listening that controls it. I know the guy that pulls up in the white van sometimes outside my back door is listening, but I also know somewhere out there's a nice little young boy that's just recently got into, you know, the top secret area and maybe is privy to certain pictures or whatever. I think that it's wonderful what you're doing with your career, and it would be really nice if you sent some classified pictures of UFOs, you know, when you just felt you know, I know it has to be hard to keep that secret, and I feel bad for you. So I won't share it. Just paranormalsideshow@gmail.com. Just send it, and we won't say anything. We'll keep the secret. You can trust us. We're John and Stacey. And, you know, secret keeping's part of what we do.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like we do paranormal news or
or have a podcast
or anything like that. It's ridiculous. So anyway, you know, it'll leak, right?
I would think so.
I don't know, but it hasn't leaked that much, and they've known about it. That's the whole thing. I'm almost falling into the trap. It's the trap that they set that I talked about when the trap was getting set. And that's the thing I hate the most in the world. When I see that, let's just say somebody's going to try to make us hate people with other color skin. and they put a bunch of political margin jargon, BS out there to make this group not like this group, even though there's not really any inherent despicable feelings or anything like that. But it's really driven by narratives that are created by people who just like discourse.
Right.
Okay. I truly believe that happens and has happened for a very long time because it's easier to control that.
Right.
I've really felt, and I know I talked about this, that they had a lot of splaining to do. Okay. So they might want to come out for whatever reason with the disclosure, or maybe it's just gotten too hot, right? It's gotten too, in the kitchen, it's a little bit heated.
Right.
And it's getting really hard to keep this secret. Plus, maybe there's a lot, the government turns over in time. We started doing these treaties or whatever with the Greys in like the, 1951 or something like that. And there's all those stories of them coming to the base and Eisenhower and all this, and even going back to the Roswell time period. So we've had this going on. I mean, that was people's great grandfathers or whatever. And these kids grew up wanting to know the truth and wanting to find out more. Right. So even in the government, there's levels. There's levels to this. I love that saying, but it's true. And, you don't just become president and get to find out the UFO secrets either.
No.
So I really think that what they've been doing, because let's just say that somewhere along the line, we did have some aliens that we had working with us that they could have been from a crash or whatever, call them prisoners, call them guests, whatever. Maybe they did show us a cube that showed us through time that was basically like their iPhone, all these wonderful things that we now carry in our hands that was just crazy. And really at the center of all those iPhones are a crystal, things like that. That's always in my mind because that was that special live primetime alien special in the 80s.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
They had the whistleblowers there and he goes, yeah, this one alien had this crystal, box top thing he held in his hand and he could show me like, ancient Egypt and things like that, but you could just see it. And to me, that's an iPhone,
right.
in so many words or so many pictures. And so anyway, if you had all this stuff that had happened, and even if you knew the reason in this government reason, and there was a reason they had to abduct so many of us, and maybe it was for survival of one of us, okay? Maybe they're creators of some kind, and we're headed for a doom if we don't have this change. And
right.
It used to be easy, right? 100,000 years ago, it was easy. We would just get a bunch of you, and we would make the change, and then it would slowly trickle down into your babies, and you were fine. It's time to change again because you're not naturally from this planet. So we have to occasionally do this.
Do the updates.
Do the updates, right. Just imagine we're computer systems because we're all run on energy, right?
Right.
And they have to restart, right? And open us up and all that stuff. But to do the update, they have to have this treaty because they're obviously with the technology level we have now, we're going to know there's UFOs out there.
Right, right.
At one time, we would think they were chariots of fire or whatever.
Right.
But now we're like, holy crap, there's aliens. And so the select few know about that. How do you, if you're trying to do some type of disclosure, because technology on the clandestine level is better than the technology was in the military level when we first started meeting with these aliens.
Right.
And we were able with that military technology to say, hey, that's aliens. But now, I can just go out here and buy a really good camera and sit here and watch people walk across the moon, we have great technology. So they have to maybe tell us, this is just my theory. So how do you do that? And you fall into this trap where they start giving us this stuff. They're like, hey, we think these things are visiting us and we're going to keep these stories and we're letting you guys know. And it just seems you're like, yay, they're giving us a pebble. But it doesn't erase all, 50 years of not being told the truth.
Right.
Or 70 years of not being told the truth. And that all these years there's been nonstop Travis Walton, The Hills, like all these big fire in the sky type cases.
Right.
that are out there that those families would need explaining. They're the people that have been burned, the people that have lost their careers, and that's just on the abductions, the law officers that were ridiculed out of their department because they've seen a UFO sighting.
Right, and they reported it.
Right. Things like this that's happened through all these times, that's a lot of explaining to do. So, but yet when we start getting this closure, everybody's like, oh, yay, we're getting this stuff. It's really great. They really didn't know. They don't know what they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. There's a big part of me that really just wants to say right now that that's crap. Mm-hmm. And
it's all an act.
And they know what they're dealing with. Maybe those pilots don't know what they're dealing with. And I truly believe that. Mm-hmm. But I will not and cannot believe for a second that there is not people on this planet right now, and this is just a plain statement. If you want to come try to surveil me and drag me away somewhere for dangerous rhetoric, that's fine. But I'm saying right now, the government is liars and always has been, and they still lie. And I'm talking about, branches, certain parts, black operations, the $50,000 toilet seat people, to cover up the money.
Right.
Somebody knows about these UFOs. Somebody knows about the aliens. Somebody knows about the abductions. Somebody has been reverse engineering. If they have a warehouse where they have alloys that are not from this planet, if you have just a nickel size thing that's not from this planet, that is, manufactured.
Right.
That's it. The case closed.
Right.
Everything people have been saying is probably true because those things were said back then. Oh, hey, it was metal from this craft. We could wad it up and it would, come back into its original shape. Mm-hmm. A lot of things that we just couldn't explain. It's a huge, huge issue. And I can't believe that for 70 years, that all these citizens from around the world were just habitual liars, crazy, misidentifying pilots, scientists, law officers. I don't believe that they are misidentifying, things. And especially, I'm sorry, it was a craft and I saw somebody get out of it and it was, and then the descriptions of the grays and all these things and all the burn marks, scoop marks, all this stuff, all these years. There's no way. It's real. It's always been real. And they have always known about it. Always. That's the reason they show up. Did you see that?
Yeah. Did our light just flicker?
Yeah. And it's doing it again.
And again.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Well, that was weird. Oh.
Oh my goodness. That's really strange. But I'm going to keep going with it.
Oh my God.
I'm going to keep going with it.
That just flickered like a bunch.
Yeah. You can describe what's happening when we're done.
Okay.
But yeah, this is pretty incredible. What's going on. You might want to record with a video here. Let's see if we can get this with a video. Maybe we can show some people as like a companion to this. So, here we go. Just in case we need it. Watch it not do it again now. I'm just saying there is no way, and there I'm talking about it again, and it just started again. And it'd be lined up completely on the video. Mm-hmm. There is no way whatsoever that this is not real. That this has not been happening, that this is not a thing. And, it's just too much. It's just too real. And I just feel like they give us these little things and they're like, okay. So I'm actually going to have to stop, and we will be picking this up in a second because there is some incredible paranormal activity happening in our studio area here. All right, so we're back, and post rant. I was obviously going pretty off about UFOs and what have you with cover-ups and all that good stuff in our government. As I was doing that, I'm going to set the mood for you here a little bit. Number one, we currently have Ariana with us. Say hi, Ariana.
Hello.
So Ariana was in her room, okay, because we have a home studio room that we do this in. And just like in our old house in the Northeast, we did the same thing, right? So we were in the studio, and in here, it is pretty much Ariana's room is right beside it. And there's a lamp that I haven't had very long. And it's like an India style lamp. Mm-hmm. It's got an elephant on there, and I have a lot of stuff that would, go into that Indian, like Ganesh and all this stuff. Okay, so anyway, the lamp is less than a year old, and as I'm going off on my rant, and I talk about this, I allude to it as I'm talking there. It's not blinking. It's almost like a strobe. It goes off, it comes on.
I would call it a flickering.
Yeah, flickering. Mm-hmm. Just honestly, I have never seen light do this before, ever. Okay, ever have I seen a light do this. Completely goes off to where it's off, and comes back on, but the flickering is insane. Okay, and it was almost going with I would stop talking, and then I would go back at it, and it would start doing it again. It's very strange. Mm-hmm. So I tell Stacey, that's when I said we're gonna stop this. I give Stacey my phone, and I've got it on the video recorder. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we recorded 6 minutes of this, okay, on video. So I gave her the recorder, or I had the recorder. I asked her to go mess with the light. So she goes over there, and it stops. So she wants to, investigate this. So I have a salt lamp, mm-hmm. and the salt lamp is plugged into the same socket.
Yes, same electrical outlet.
The same electrical outlet with the salt lamp. Salt lamp was doing nothing irregular. The lamp itself, Stacey goes over and shakes it, moves it back and forth, picks it up and down.
Mm-hmm. I shook the table underneath it.
Shook the table, rattled the crap out of it, jumped up and down, moved the wires. Everything. Could not make this thing flicker at all.
And it's still on now. It's fine.
Yeah, it's been on 30 minutes later. Mm-hmm. And no sign of any problem, no flicker, no anything a half hour later. Mm-hmm. Okay? So we're sitting here, and I'm just like, okay, let's do some EVP. So I actually pull out the recorder. We're doing that. And my headphones are laying on our table. Mm-hmm. Okay. And my headphones, nothing is touching a wire. There's nothing wrapped up. They are strictly laying on the table. Stacey can see my hands, my feet, the table, everything. Mm-hmm. The headphones, as I'm asking questions, and we capture the audio of this, but the headphones move. And I mean, they slide like that. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, okay. Fair game. So in the meantime, Stacey's trying to get my attention as I'm asking some questions. She's looking at her iPad, and she's checking stuff out. She's looking back over at the computer screen, and you could tell her little wheels are moving and everything. So she tells me it was exactly midnight when that started happening. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Mm-hmm. She goes, yeah, that's not the weird part. She said, Ariana text messaged me asking me if I can have some baby aspirin. Because why, Ari?
Because I had a headache at that time.
Okay, explain the headache that happened.
It was just like a normal headache. It lasted like a few minutes, and only a few minutes really. So I texted her again. I was like, never mind, I'm better.
And you didn't take any medicine?
No.
And it just went away?
Yeah.
So the timestamp on her messages was 12:06. So we started our video at midnight. It was only a 6-minute video. So right at the end of when all that activity was happening was when she messaged me, and she said, I have a headache. Can I have some aspirin? And then I got the second message, which wasn't even a new timestamp, so it was pretty close to the same time. And it just said, never mind, I'm better. And so I asked her, I said, is your headache gone completely? And she said, yes. And I said, did you have it for a long time, or was it quick? And she said, just a few minutes. I just had it a few minutes.
All right.
So it came on at the same time as the activity, and then was gone when the activity was gone.
So explain the headache to me. Was it in the front, the back, side of your head? behind your eyes.
Front maybe, not behind my eyes. Front maybe. I usually get my headaches in the front, I think.
So around
on your forehead.
Yeah.
Around on your forehead. Okay, so your head was hurting on your forehead.
Yeah.
When this activity was happening, and then it quickly just went away?
Not like quickly. I mean, maybe quickly. Whenever she asked me, it already been gone for a little bit.
Okay.
So, maybe if I'm just guessing, maybe a few minutes, probably.
All right.
Okay.
So we then brought her in here, and that was just interesting. We wanted to tell her about this and put her on the show, just because this is. I mean, we talk about we live a haunted life, and there's always haunting in our home, with us, anywhere we go. There's something to do with spirits. There's something to do with weird things happening. But I will say this. I've never seen anything like that, what that light was doing. The light's fine now. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very strange placement of her headache. The fact that her headache happened at the same time. The fact that it ended when the activity ended. And we just found all that out, and we thought we would share all that with you, just because it's very strange. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna stop this again, and then we're gonna pick right back up with the news.
All right, well, let's continue on with our regularly scheduled news.
What a strange event.
So anyway, we're just gonna leave that last story behind.
Okay.
We're done with that.
I'm not gonna complain about it anymore.
We're done with that. All right, so
you sure you don't want me to call them out again and see?
No, but this next story is something about space. So
okay.
So this is a story that I saw on space.com, and I just thought it was pretty interesting because the title of the article is "Could There Be Life on Mars Today?" That's the whole premise of the article. And the whole article is about how the search for life on Mars shouldn't focus exclusively on like the distant past. Like, you know how they're sort of trying to find remnants of past life. Right. And they're also talking about how they need to start focusing on other areas of Mars that aren't just the surface, like perhaps the life's underground.
Which has always been the prevailing theory.
Yes. So these are things that were discussed at this conference called the Breakthrough Discuss Conference. It was held at the University of California in Berkeley. And so they were talking about how Mars lost its global magnetic field, and the atmosphere got stripped away, and this happened billions of years ago. These are things that they are finding out that they know, but they're saying that this doesn't necessarily mean that it's a dead planet. They have discovered the water, and they have had that recent methane discovery, so there's been a lot of things that are very promising in the search for life. And so they're talking about how one of the most promising hiding places is the Martian underground, and that there's likely lots of water down under the surface. And so this is just a very interesting article about that talk and how they have had all these new discoveries that make it very promising that they will find something there. So I just thought it was a really cool article.
That is interesting. I mean, it's basically the fact, that's what everybody kind of thinks, that if there is life there, that it's probably, or it's definitely underground. I don't know. I guess we'll find out pretty soon, though.
Yes, and they are talking about it. It's just a discussion that's been going on now, like it's normal. Everybody's talking about, like everybody's just talked about it all the time.
Because we're in Bizarro world now.
Yes. So to kind of round out some of our space news, Jeff Bezos did an announcement on May 9th. And he kind of teased this announcement a while back on his Twitter with some weird picture of some boat in Antarctica and stuff. And it just had the date May 9th. So May 9th, he did this unveiling, as you will. It was like this huge conference. It wasn't streamed live, but you could get live updates. And of course, you can go back now and see all the different pictures and all the information of the stuff that he was talking about. But the main purpose was for him to unveil his moon lander.
Oh.
Yes. And he started talking about his vision for space and what he thinks they should be working towards.
And what did old Bezos think they should be working towards?
So, he owns Blue Origin, which is a rocket company, and his company is the one that has already started taking orders for ferrying people into space.
Right.
It's like a vacation kind of thing. And so he was talking about his vision for the future where people will be living in space. And I'm not talking about on the moon or on Mars. He is talking about colonies in space, like free floating.
Right.
And he showed pictures of space colonies that were very much like Gerard O'Neill wrote about in his book in the 70s. I think it was in 1976. He proposed these cylindrical space stations. I think they even call it like the O'Neill cylinder.
Right.
And he had written a book in 1976 called The High Frontier: Human Colonies in Space, proposing that in the 21st century, humans would live in these space colonies and mine resources from space.
Right.
And Bezos even talked about how we are using up our resources and we are going to get to a point where things are going to have to be rationed on Earth because we've run out of all these natural resources, but that in space you would have unlimited resources. Yeah. And so his vision is these colonies that are not so far off Earth that you couldn't somewhat easily come back if you needed to. And it was all very, dreamy and quality. But his point was that these are things that would be built generations from now, but that we needed to start laying the infrastructure for that sort of thing now. So he unveiled his moon lander and also made a direct pitch to NASA and the White House saying that it would help meet President Trump's goal, getting people back on the moon, getting all of that stuff rolling. So very ambitious talk. It was very, you would liken it to like when they unveil the new iPhone. It was that sort of atmosphere, on the stage with this thing and the talk. So, and
did the first guy drop the moon lander?
Maybe it's huge. This moon lander is huge. So he seemed to also, take little stabs at other space, companies.
Right.
And that sort of thing.
He better watch his ass.
He might end up in a car in space.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting talk, and I think you can find a video of it and definitely, all the specifications on his new moon lander. And, you can always go to the Blue Origin website, and they've got all the information there, too.
Here's how it works. All right. I'm pretty sure Elon Musk listens to the show. Mm-hmm. And hi, Elon. Love your name. So if it's not him and it's, Bezos, hi, Jeff, how's it going? So whichever one of you is actually listening, then give us a little sign. And well, as long as that's not our lights flickering.
Yeah,
but,
really.
No, it's cool. Wow, there's room for both. I'll tell you, the true mad scientist, though, is Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. He is a madman, and I love that guy. So,
Well, it was an interesting announcement, and they are moving forward with, everything they're trying to do. Everybody's got a piece of the pie.
Everybody's
now,
going to space.
And I lied about that being our last space story because I forgot that I had this. And this is just a little short story about how the Japanese had their first private Japanese rocket reach space. So Japan is now in the private space market.
Right.
They have...
I bet their rocket was much smaller than all the other rockets.
I think it was. But it was just their first attempt, and it only stayed aloft for like 8.5 minutes. But
that's all they want. They're minimalist.
But it was a
They're
successful
this is our polite
test.
little rocket, and we're going to send it up there. It's got room for one astronaut and a ration for a week, which is 3 rice cakes.
Well, the company that did this, I think their ultimate aim is to take small satellites into orbit, cheaper than the government can do it. So they're still at the very basic level of this private space.
But hey,
racket.
They did it.
That's right. They did it, and they're going to continue to work on it. And every country seems to be getting into the space race now.
And I love Japan anyway, so...
Yes. And, I did grab this story. This isn't anything to do with space, but it does have to do with Japan. It's one that you sent me, and it was about the new emperor over there.
I thought this was super interesting.
This is so interesting, and I thought I'd stick it in here since we were talking about Japan. But you know how the emperor, he abdicated the throne,
Yes.
and his son...
Because he had been emperor for 500 years.
Right. So his son has now ascended to what they call the chrysanthemum
I mean,
throne.
this guy was the emperor since World War II. He was the one that led Japan out of the dark regime. They don't even talk about they don't talk about the leaders they had around World War II. They don't talk about that. Like, they would rather not even remember that. That's how the people are.
Right.
Because they're so progressive. They're so welcoming. They're so all this, you know. Now they're not welcoming on immigration. they shut that crap down. I mean, good on them. But with that said, they are the most respectful, the just amazing cultural people on the planet, in my opinion.
Yes.
I love the Japanese. Now, this new emperor, I mean, that's a big thing. That's a whole new era.
It is. And, his name is Naruhito. He is the son of the previous emperor. And he did say, when he made a statement, that he pledged to emulate his father and his father's reign, in seeking peace and staying close to the people. And hopefully that's true. But this whole article is about how he performed a Shinto ritual at the palace on Wednesday to report to the imperial family gods the plans for the main ceremonies of his succession later this year.
Wow.
Because that's not going to happen until October, but he went to the shrines, Shinto shrines, did a ritual so that he could let them know the plans of what was going to happen.
That's awesome.
Yes. So it's really awesome, especially that he's, keeping those traditions.
Traditions. And I mean, I can tell you this much, you better respect it. So I'm with them. I'd be in that Shinto shrine quite a bit.
It says in this article also that Empress Misako also prayed at 3 shrines after he did. And this is the first time since 2002, since she sort of receded from the public eye. She had some stress-induced conditions, but she's now come back and started praying as well. So
yeah, very neat, man. That's and especially we started off talking about our friend and the Shinto and so really cool stuff, and I think that Japan will be just fine, except for they had an earthquake the other day, but other than that, they have those like every few days. So
all right, well, let's move on. All right, so here's a story about a school in Eatonville, Florida, that has had to be shut down because some what they call ghost hunters have vandalized the location. And I hate stories like this because these are not ghost hunters.
No,
these are thrill seekers,
vagrants,
and kids, and vandals. So this is a school in Eatonville, Florida. It used to be a school, and the school closed in 2010. And so the building was being used as like a community center. And some internet rumors came out because the building looks kind of old and abandoned, and some websites showcasing the school and calling it haunted and saying that there are spirits there. And so this made the building gain popularity where people would go and break in.
Of course.
And they've caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage to the
thanks,
building.
Florida.
Yeah, and even just the wiring alone, someone messed with the wiring, and that's over $50,000 on its own. There's graffiti in there now. They've broken windows. The whole place has had to be shut down completely. And even the police say they've already made more than half a dozen arrests of people found trespassing there just to, get a thrill or whatever. And now the building is not haunted. Like, nobody's ever had an experience there. There's never been there's never been any sort of stories or anything. It was just a rumor.
Yeah, but it will be if they're going in there and doing rituals.
And now they're afraid that the damage is so bad that they're not going to be able to bring the building back.
Right.
Like, it's going to cost too much. They have put surveillance cameras in, hidden ones, so that they can catch people trespassing. But this sort of thing just makes me really angry because then it makes all paranormal investigators look bad.
Yeah, I think they know by now that, it's not that case, but definitely, it's just kids. It is. It was a lot worse 10 years ago, and there was a lot of that crap going on. Hopefully, I know I've had people ask me, hey, we're going to break into this old house, and No. Let me find you doing that.
Really? Well, I think it was funny that the story came up because we did just talk about with Alan Marston on the last Realm of Shadows podcast. We were talking about that place that in Johnson City that we loved, and it ended up the family decided to tear it down because they couldn't keep people from breaking in, and the building was not safe.
Yeah.
And it cost more money for them to continually board up the windows and fix the damage that was done just because people said that it was haunted.
Swingle Hospital.
Yes. So that sort of thing. And, that I loved that building. There's always an opportunity that somebody could have fixed it up one day in the future. And it breaks my heart that they had to tear it down because people couldn't stay out of where they weren't supposed to go.
Yeah. Gorgeous. It was such a gorgeous house.
People that do that sort of thing, they're the kind of people that would get hurt and then sue the people that own the building.
Oh, they would. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They always would do that. It just let it go.
All right. Well, let's go on and talk about some discoveries.
Cool.
So this is a discovery of ancient hallucinogens that were found in a 1,000-year-old shamanic pouch.
Really?
Yes. Isn't that cool? So it's a small pouch that was made from 3 fox snouts neatly sewn together. And they say that it may contain the world's earliest archaeological evidence for the consumption of ayahuasca.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Wow. Out of all the hallucinogens,
exactly.
They were talking to the little people in the forest. They were talking to aliens.
So according to a man named Jose Capriles, he's an anthropologist at Penn State University. He wrote the paper about this discovery. He found the pouch during a 2010 dig in Cueva del Chileno, which is a rock shelter that shows signs of human activity going back 4,000 years.
Wow.
And they say that this cave was once used as a tomb, and some looters came and took the bodies, but they left behind what they thought was trash.
Right.
Like beads and some braids of human hair. I don't know why they wouldn't take that. And what Jose thought was first a leather shoe, but ended up being this leather ritual bag or some kind of pouch made of fox snouts.
And this is 4,000 years old.
Well, radiocarbon dating of the leather bag's surface indicate that it was used sometime between around 900 to 1170 AD.
Wow.
They believe that the cave had people in it up to 4,000
Yeah, no, I got you. I mean, can you imagine how powerful those sons of guns are right now? I mean...
Well, the bundle that he found, it contained some dried plant remains, and they couldn't positively identify what those plant remains were. So what he did was
Fed it to a dog?
No, surprisingly no. He tested the chemical signature from the inside of the pouch to see, what kind of things he could find. So it turns out that the pouch once contained a number of psychoactive substances.
Wow.
The analysis revealed traces of, and I don't know what a lot of these are. One of them's like bufotenine. One's BZE. I can't say, it's a really long name. Cocaine, likely from the coca leaf.
Wow.
And DMT. They found DMT
in there. Oh my God.
Harmine and possibly...
I want to hang out with this guy.
possibly a chemical component of psychedelic mushrooms. So the pouch's owner, they say, was either well-traveled or was connected to some really good trade, because
It's better if you did.
a lot of those plants were not native to southwestern Bolivia, like to his area. So you would have had to travel a very great distance to gather them.
I'm sure that was no problem whatsoever for him.
Probably not. So they didn't.
I'll be back in a little bit.
Now, they say there's no way to prove that the shaman that had the pouch used all those ingredients to create ayahuasca, but those are the ingredients, and it is very possible. They say that even though ayahuasca is like an ancient preparation, they don't really know how old it is. Like, most people think it's more modern type
because the guys who did it didn't really think about writing stuff down.
They feel like it's a more modern type of psychedelic drug. Yeah. So this is the earliest evidence of that sort of thing being
Oddly
produced.
enough, they found an old Grateful Dead 8-track there as well. It's brought next to a lava lamp. They think it's the earliest form of a lava lamp. But some day glow colors, I don't know. There's a few teddy bears. The thing about this, I mean, there's a lot of things about this that are very awesome, right? We've recently talked about DMT. We've talked about all this crap. So the psychedelics, you know, some of them are just for whatever. I've always thought, especially with the government's testing of LSD and all this, I think it was tapping into part of the brain. I still believe that.
Right.
That we don't normally use and is super powerful, okay? And I think there's a lot of stuff there, especially with the DMT, the short trips that take you to some weird creation palace that where you meet these people and you meet certain types of people,
Right.
you know, that we've talked about before on here.
Right.
But, you know, and I think that's amazing, right? And they were doing it that long ago. That really, you know, before there was a war on drugs was just a normal thing, dude. They were just a normal part of the day. And it's just like our founding fathers, you know, people were sloshy, crappy, like messed up all the time on something. Like whatever you could find, they were just doing it.
Right.
And here we are, you know, just say knowing. And so you want to talk about how everybody's so depressed and like bitter and angry and
Right.
wars and all this crap. It's because nobody's high.
Right.
And I just,
agree.
you know, everybody's like back in the day, they were all just like, hey, let's eat this thing. All right. You know, I don't know. And listen, I am not one side of that fence or another. Okay. The thing about it is because of my profession, hashtag Bruce Wayne job, I have to be clean as a whistle. Okay. I'm not judgmental though. So I'm not going to judge you if that's what you do and that's what you spend your time doing or whatever. I'm honestly a little bit scared of any kind of psychedelic because I'm not that in control of my brain as it is.
You're pretty out there anyway.
Yeah. So I'm kind of afraid to do it. So, you know, we'll just leave that to the professionals. But it's very interesting. It's very interesting that the shaman was there. I mean, obviously that shaman could send you on a trip.
Yes, and I think it said in the article that they don't believe that the pouch was left there by accident.
Don't you think that maybe it's, you know, technology always moves forward. And, you know, so there's today we know so much more about this or so much more about that and all this crap, right? Don't you think, especially when it comes to those particular drugs, that shaman may have been leaps and bounds ahead of anybody today? Because of, you know, there's a few things, the legality, you know, it's not just easy to have that and sit around and test your cousin, you know.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure back then it was like, hey, Eddie, come here, you know, and he's just like, yes, uncle, here, try this in combination of this and stick this one up your butt. You know,
Tell me what happens.
Yeah, tell me what happens. And but wait a second, before you do that, bring that monkey over here too. You know, it's just, I don't know. I would have been doing that. I'll tell you one funny thing that it would that would not have ever been a discovery. Like if I was in that, cave, it would just be like, actually we found nothing. Strange as it is, there was nothing except this shoe made out of fox faces. I'm going to take it with me.
Shoe fox faces. All right. Well,
Are we sure that the fox just wasn't getting like terribly high? And that's like the remnants from inside the fox face?
No, it was 3 snouts. So unless the fox had 3 snouts.
Well, I mean, they were
They were
snouts.
sewn together.
It's just like, you know, little cocaine fox. It's the worst kind of fox.
Yes, it is. It is. You know, I didn't bring the story. Speaking of weird animals, I didn't bring the story about the 3-eyed snake. Do you remember this story?
I do.
Of the 3-eyed snake. It was a snake that was actually born with a 3rd eye in the middle of its head. Like it wasn't a twin or a
there was
two-headed snake or anything.
No abnormality. I mean, there was no reason for it. It was a 3-eyed snake. And which is just terrifying from anybody like us, and you all are. So you're instantly thinking of, what does the 3rd eye represent, right? You know?
Right.
So here's a freaking snake that has that. Speaking of which, as far as Creepy Von Creepo, we have a really good friend of the family named Deborah and Charles Sheffy. And Deborah had a picture today in her freaking house of a big, long black snake that I would have just... I don't care. I don't want to sound tough or anything. It was
slithering across the walls on the nails in the wall.
I would have been like, ah!
Our house would have been burnt to the ground.
I would have moved out. I mean, that's it. I would.
Never. Are there any more?
Could you ever go back in? No. How could you ever sleep in that house again?
No.
It took me years as a child. There was a movie where a freaking snake, somebody let a snake in to kill the guy. The guy's in the shower, and I don't remember what movie it is. Probably somebody out there right now is like, oh, that's this. The snake comes through maybe a vent or something like that. He's in the shower, like la da 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 da,
Right.
whistling his Irish song or whatever. And the snake comes down and tries to kill him. I don't know. It freaked me out so bad that every shower, dude, I would just I can't close my eyes. I'd just be looking around, looking around everywhere. I couldn't stand it. Just absolutely couldn't. It took forever to get over that.
Yeah. Did you send me the doorbell camera footage of the guy who was bit by a snake when he opened his door?
I didn't send you that. I haven't watched that, but I've seen that it's out there, and I don't want to see it.
You don't want to see it?
I do not want to see it. No. I mean, what happened? Was the snake just crazy? Did it just?
I don't know. It must have been inside between the door and the screen door, and he opened the screen door to go in the house, and he wasn't looking at he was looking off to the side, and it just lunged at him and bit him in the face. It wasn't a huge snake, but it was.
Was it poisonous?
I don't think so. I don't know. It was very weird. I only watched it once. I watched it once. That was enough for me. I was like, no, I don't. Mm-mm.
That's a bit weird, though, isn't it?
It is weird.
I mean, that's a little voodoo-y or something.
Yeah, it was strange. It was very strange.
That guy has a crazy ex.
All right, so let's go on to this next discovery. And this is a discovery made by a hiker while he was in southern Utah. And he was near the Halls Crossing Marina on Lake Powell. And he was doing some hiking. He's from Colorado, but he went to Utah to do some hiking. And he
That's weird.
found what he says are
a lot of hiking in Colorado already.
Old Spanish coins.
Ooh.
One of which possibly dates back to earlier than Columbus.
Oh, wow.
So the whole story is very strange. It says the mystery began last September. He found these last September, and he was hiking near Lake Powell, and he picked up what he thought was like coins from wine bottles. Like he just thought it was some kind of trash. He wasn't trying to, take anything important. And he took them home. And after he got home, he was kind of looking over things he had picked up or collected or whatever, and he realized that they were actually small coins. So he tried to clean them up a little bit, did a little research, and he realized that they were really old Spanish coins.
Right.
So he took them or sent them back to the National Park Service because he felt like that's what he should have done. Now, they're not publishing his name, like he's not saying who he is or trying to get any notoriety from this. And the park officials are keeping the exact location he found them secret because in case there are other sort of artifacts there. Mm-hmm. But
so they can cover them all up.
Yeah, so they can go ahead.
Because it's pre-Columbian.
Well, it says they're two small coins, one about the size of a quarter and the other one smaller than a dime. They do give, now none of this has been completely verified. This is just from the basic research that they've already done. They do appear to be very old, and the area that they were found for a long time was underwater. But there's not water there now. So
right.
There's a reason why maybe they weren't found before. And the man said he believes the larger one matches coins that are like from the 1660s, but that the smaller one matches coins he believes are from like the 1200s, like 1290s.
Yeah, but if it's there with the ones from the 1660s, more than likely the person had the one from the 1660.
Well, that is one theory, yes.
Yeah.
There's a theory that somebody brought them there and just lost them.
Yeah.
Later on, like it was part of a collection. So, like I said, they haven't even confirmed that the coins are authentic. But the whole thing is very strange, and a lot of people are screaming that it's just a hoax. But I don't really know how to go on that because
if you were hoaxing it, you wouldn't put a 1660 in there.
Right, and you wouldn't not give your name.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking for notoriety.
Maybe you would not give your name. But listen, if you're trying to hoax it, you're trying to hoax it so you can do something pre-Columbian and be the person that gets the absolute proof that somebody was here before Columbus. So they can go ahead and, go back further on that. And just like we always do with the Vikings, which we know the Vikings were here first, so shut up. But anyway, the whole thing with that, if you were going to do that, you would not do something 1660 because that just devalues it. And a Spanish coin sitting there and sitting in the same vicinity as the other one, it is a collection. It's something like that, or they came through in the 1660s and still had coins from a couple of hundred years before, which would be crazy.
Right.
Because that's still... you know, like right now, if I was sitting here and I had cash from the day and cash from the 1700s, it's still cash from the 1700s.
Yes.
You'd be like, holy cow, you know, that's cool.
Right. So, but the whole circumstances around it is weird. Like, what would they be doing there in the middle of that national park? Just laying on the ground, you know, it's not like he dug for them. And he did say that he just found them. I thought this part was funny. He just found them, that he wasn't using a metal detector because that's illegal in the park.
Is that how he said it?
Well, I mean,
Then I drove home and I definitely wasn't speeding or using a speed detector.
Right. So, you know, I feel like
I don't even know how to say the right thing. What is that, Paul? Oh, it's a radar detector. I'm sorry. I would never use that whatsoever. It's then I had perfectly Christian sex with my wife, and I used I would not use a condom, so she obviously did not get pregnant just from the grace of God, because I did not use a penis protector. So
well, I just thought that part of the story was pretty interesting, because it made it sound like he just thought it was trash and it was just laying there on the ground and no metal detecting device was used at all. But he found them, you know, he didn't discover it till after he got home.
Did he happen to say they were Bobby Dazzlers?
That word was not used.
Or a top pocket
but
find?
You don't know that he didn't say that.
Okay.
When he found them.
I think I might know our culprit.
So anyway, interesting story. I'll be curious to see what they say after they're verified.
You'll never
or not
hear
verified.
about it.
You never know. You never know. All right, so let's go on to this next story. And this is a cool story about treasure hunting.
Ooh, we were just talking about that.
And this is about a Tennessee man that believes he has solved the Forrest Fenn treasure mystery.
Really?
Yes. So his name is Chris P. Dotson. He's just a fisherman. He's an artist.
He's got a middle initial. He might have actually done it. It sounds important.
He lives in Tennessee. And what happened was he recently had a heart attack. A few years ago.
I wish I'd started doing that, like early in life.
What's that?
John A. Edwards. Like, I didn't start it, so no one take it serious now. I can't get that going.
You can't just do it now.
I mean, it's too late. I mean, or you could go really fancy, like C. Thomas Howell. Mm-hmm. You know,
and do like the letter at the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning.
I don't know. It's a slippery slope using 3 names, because that just puts you right into, you know, like serial killer.
Yeah,
they always use 3 names.
I know where you're going, but you know, there's a lot of people of fame and stuff that do too, like John A. Edwards. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. So this Tennessee man, he had a heart attack several years ago, and it was pretty serious. He had to have like 4 stents put in. He couldn't work. He had to just stay at home and recover. And while he was there, he came across...
It's like hitting the lottery in Tennessee.
He came across Forrest Fenn's book, something he had owned but never really got into. He'd read it, but he'd never really got into the whole story. And if you don't know who Forrest Fenn is or the story, Fenn is the millionaire. And he found out he had cancer, and he decided that he was going to place a lot of the valuables that he collected over the course of his life into an ancient chest. And his plan was to drop some clues in this book that he had written, hide the treasure, and then take his own life before the cancer killed him. But as it turned out, he beat cancer. He didn't end up taking his own life, but he decided to hide the treasure anyway and continue dropping clues in a book and a poem and different interviews and things like that. So tons of people have tried to find this treasure. It's supposed to be estimated at several $1 million in the chest.
Right.
And it even says in here that 4 people have died searching for the treasure, that he hid it somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, and it's been nearly a decade now. It's been a long time.
Right.
So this man, Chris Dodson, he has been studying this whole time, years he's been at home. He was kind of depressed. He just dove headlong into this treasure hunting. He studied the book. He studied the clues. He studied message boards where other people had been looking for it. He tried to learn from their mistakes. But he says that he did something that he doesn't think other people did, and he has listened to Forrest Fenn speak, because he feels like he dropped clues in interviews and at every chance that he got. And he is not revealing where he thinks the treasure is, but he feels like he has it narrowed down to a square mile, maybe a quarter of a mile. Like he thinks he knows. And the clincher is that he emailed. He was planning on going to the Rockies in April, and he emailed Forrest Fenn, who never notoriously does not reply to his emails, but
Right.
he emailed him and he said, get ready to hand that treasure over. I'm pretty sure I know where it is. And I think he told him where he was going to go look. And he got a response from Forrest Fenn, and the response just said, "Wait until summer," and then was signed with an F. So he feels like, because it's the Rocky Mountains, there's snow,
Yeah.
that possibly it's in a location where it has to be warmer to get to it. And he feels like he is close, and that confirms that he's close, because Forrest Fenn was like, giving him advice. So he plans on going this summer, and hopefully he thinks that he's going to find it. I mean, he's pretty confident.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
So is that research or that map or anything where he thinks it is? You think that's on his person and currently?
I have no idea.
No, I mean, I was just wondering. I mean, do I have any? I wonder if I have any listeners out there. We have a lot of over the road listeners that really love the show. Do we have any in any motorcycle clubs that would like to maybe talk to me?
It does say here that he has a wife and a dog, and he's remodeling a 2-story house in a wooded area in Shepherdsville.
Okay, well we can
you can kind of narrow it.
we
down
can
there.
make sure the dog doesn't get hurt. No, I'm just playing. Obviously, we don't and we don't care about the dog. So anyway, that's really interesting.
It is really cool, and it's cool that he has gone to such lengths. And he did say that if he doesn't find the treasure, it's okay. He'll probably still keep looking for it, but even if it turns out that there is no treasure, even though I think there is, that he feels like the whole experience was good for him because it pulled him out of that depression.
No, that's bullcrap. People say that because they're supposed to say that.
Right.
That's if he doesn't find the treasure, he's going to dag nab it all over the place. And
well, I don't think he said if he doesn't find. I think he meant if somebody else found it before him.
Yeah.
Or
still no.
Or if it's not there. So good luck to him, and hopefully there'll be an update on. I'm sure if he finds it, we'll know.
Yeah.
So. All right, so let's move on, and I'm going to talk about this documentary that BBC put out, and I'm going to link to it. It's really interesting because it's not something that I had ever heard of, and it's talking about Kenya's mysterious night runners. So the people in Kenya have spoken of night runners for generations, and they're supposedly villagers that are possessed by a demonic spirit that compels them to scare and terrorize their neighbors at night.
Wow.
No one really knows who they are because they keep their identities secret,
right?
Because they don't want the
they're
community
demons.
to know that they're a night runner. So this reporter did this documentary for BBC that investigates these night runners, and he was talking to a couple that agreed to show their faces and talk about being night runners.
Oh, wow.
So the man that he's speaking to in this documentary, I watched it. It's not terribly long, so it's very interesting to watch. But he claims that his father was a night runner, and his father passed away, and he went outside one day and he found this tin beside his house. It had some stones in it and some soil, and he said he stepped over it, and right after he did that, he started doing night running. Like it's said that it's passed down through families, almost like, I guess, the demonic presence just moves on to the next family member. So he is a night runner. Now he's married, and his wife doesn't come from a family of night runners, but supposedly she was converted, is what the way they put it. She was converted, and she was a night runner as well. And she claims that if she stays home and doesn't go out at night, that she starts to get sick until she goes and does it. And so the camera followed her, and basically what they do is they go out at night when it's very dark. They go to people's houses, they beat on the roof with sticks, they wiggle the door handles, anything they can do to scare the people that are inside. They cover their faces, and then they just run away when they're finished. And the reporter interviewed an old woman who people had been terrorizing her, and she was really scared. They set up a camera outside her house, and they showed it to her, hoping that they could show her that it was just a person, but she was still scared. She's like, what kind of person would do something like that? And there was the real belief there that they were possessed,
right?
That these people are possessed. So during this documentary, they go and talk to a former runner, and this man was talking about how he was out one night and he was caught by some of the villagers, and they poured boiling water on him when he was caught. And he was so terrified of the community finding out that he was a night runner that instead of going to the hospital to treat his injuries, he went home and burnt his house down.
Holy
So that he was then just the man who was burned in a fire in his home. And he showed his injuries. It is graphic, so I'll just warn you. It does warn you at the beginning. He showed his injuries, and it was horrific. It was bad. And after they talked to him, the couple went and talked to him. The woman was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. Yeah. I'm not going to be a night runner. I'm just going to stop. And that lasted a couple of days until she just couldn't stand it and just kept doing it. So it's really interesting, the lore there. Like, it's an old legend, an old myth, but people really do it. And, the reporter went back and saw that same couple. They ended up getting discovered, and the village that they lived in, they had to move because they threatened to burn their house down. Oh, yeah. If they didn't leave. So they left. They ended up getting separated, and we didn't see the man anymore, but she is currently going to a healer to try and, get rid of the urge. They claim it was an addiction. And, it makes you wonder if that really is some kind of demonic influence that causes that, or if it's just some sort of addiction to the thrill of it.
It sounds more like something little people would do. Like, it sounds more something fairy-ish or something like that. Something elemental. Right. That maybe not straight up demon. Right. But something trickster kind of thing, right?
It is, because, they don't steal anything. They don't really damage anything. They just want to freaking scare you. They just want to scare you and play tricks on you. Yeah. And
it definitely sounds paranormal to me.
Yeah, and it's not like they don't want to be discovered. It's not like they're doing anything harmful. Yeah. It's more annoying than anything else. And I believe a few years ago there was a man that claimed to be a night runner that was trying to get it more recognized and accepted. I don't think that really went anywhere.
No, probably not.
But it's just
he should come to America.
It's just interesting that
I'm sure they'd accept him right up.
Yeah. It's just interesting that something that was steeped in so much lore and legend is actually a real thing. Yeah. And it still continues. It's very strange.
Yeah, well, no, it is. It's strange. It's cool that, I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, me neither. So, but it is an interesting little documentary. Like I said, it's kind of short. You can go and watch it, and it's very, very cool. But be prepared to see some disturbing images.
Yes.
So. All right, so let's move on to this next story about the UK's what they call the most haunted pub is for sale.
Really?
Yes, and we're talking about the UK and old pubs.
Yeah.
It's got to be pretty haunted if it's calling itself the most haunted.
That's a pretty bold statement for the United Kingdom.
It really is. So the pub is called the Devil's Stone Inn.
I'm buying it.
And it's located in Shepherd, Devon. And the pub is named after this unusual tradition that this village has. They have a 1-ton stone that is across the street from this pub, right outside of this church. Okay? And
I like it already.
The village is known for its tradition of turning what they call the Devil's Stone, which takes place each year on the 5th of November. So the story is that the stone fell out of the devil's pocket as he fell from heaven to hell. Wow. So the church bell ringers turn it each year to keep the devil away. That's the tradition.
Wow. But the devil always remembers because it's the 5th of November.
Is that the story?
No, I'm just, never mind.
So, and this stone is right near the pub, so that's why the pub has the name the Devil's Stone Inn. So it's said, the inn is actually said to be attached to the church via a hidden tunnel.
Ooh.
So it's a very nice place. It has a bar, a games room, a function room, 8 bedrooms, plus the owner's accommodation. And supposedly it's a characterful village inn. But
it's a what?
It's described as a characterful village inn.
Is characterful a word?
Characterful. That's what it says in here. I'm not sure if that's actually a room. Full of character is what I think they mean. Yeah.
I just don't think that's. I don't think that's a word. It's. Sure. I guess it is, but characterful. So it don't sound right.
It was converted into an inn 400 years ago, but it was a farmhouse before that. So the building is very old, and the rating on TripAdvisor is like 4 out of 5. It's a very nice place. But one of the review reads that they went and they didn't see any ghosts. But there are accounts that there is a young female spirit there that's not, she's considered friendly, and some people have seen her just standing there along with a gray bearded man.
Right.
So there are stories of some sightings, but there are a lot of people that say they didn't see anything. But it is for sale.
Well, I mean, the story itself is just a really cool story. I mean, how could you not love that? That's so Hammer horror.
It is.
I want my pub a little older. There's pubs that are older, much older than 400 years.
And much more haunted than just a couple sightings of I don't know how they say that they're the most haunted pub.
Yeah, I think that's a bold statement because there are pubs over there that are just, I mean, they've been around since the freaking, like, as soon as people were there.
Right.
You know, that's one of the first things. We're like, hey, we need to get drunk somewhere.
It's like, what are we going to build first, the church or the pub?
The pub. We got to have a reason to go to church.
There you go.
But yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right, so let's move on. And let's talk about something conspiracy type. And this is about the Roswell and the Denver airports.
Oh my God.
So you know how the Denver airport recently has been doing a lot of really funny stuff, sort of embracing its
trolling.
Conspiracy. Yes. So now the Roswell airport and the Denver airports are sister airports.
Oh.
And they're saying that they formed a supernatural sisterhood. They've made an alliance between the two locations. And through this alliance, they've made some fun with it.
So I can only picture that last year at the Bohemian Grove, they were like, boys, I've got an idea. Hold on a second. Peter, get off of me. All right. So I've got an idea.
Right.
We're going to be in plain sight. Because what happens in plain sight? How about you, Peter? What happens when you're in plain sight? What do we do? What's easy to do? You're supposed to be Peter.
I don't know what you're looking for here.
Hide.
Oh, hide. I wouldn't make it very long.
This is why we don't let girls named Peter into the Grove.
Anyway, continue.
Oh my God. So I was going to let you join in and be characters here, you know?
Yes, but I didn't.
No.
I don't run on your same wavelength, so I didn't know what was happening.
So anyway, I think somewhere around a year ago, they decided that hidden in plain sight would be the best way.
I see.
And
I get it now.
And it goes back to a tried and true thing that they do, because in some of our original UFO documents on how to deal with the UFO phenomena, actual government instructions were to pretty much misinformation, ridicule, make it funny, make you look like an idiot. And so Hollywood got into that, TV got into that, and like putting that weird,
right.
And kind of like the Randy Quaid's character in Independence Day. He was, I was abducted by alien, and everybody made fun of him till they didn't. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what happened. I think a couple of years ago, we went from serious stories where they're like, okay, here's the founding stone that, and here's this weird, painting, this mural of death and destruction. And, here's the entrances under the airport where all the rich can go when everything blows up. That's some pretty big deals, right? There's what, like city size underneath of the Denver airport. And of course we know about Roswell and all the crap there. So I just think that somewhere along the line, they're like, okay, we're going to go to plan B, which is let's just make fun of it. Right.
Well, that's what they've done here. And so they announced it via a press release. It's just saying that the two facilities are going to work together to promote their respective sites and exchange ideas regarding best practices when it comes to making air travel easier for everyone. But because they're who they are and they wanted it to be kind of tongue-in-cheek and funny, they put out this memorandum of understanding, and I've printed it out here. They've made it look like a confidential classified document, and they say things in it like that the two airports will be sharing, quote, best cover-up practices while maintaining strict confidentiality, especially regarding underground affairs.
Wow.
That sort of thing. And they put, it says in a nod to Roswell's role in UFO history, it also notes that the two sites will cooperate when it comes to communications received from cosmic visitors, as well as how to properly manage this and store flying aircraft or vessels. And it also states that the airports will not share their darkest secrets, but it does say that such insights will be exchanged if ordered by a superior species. So they've put this, I mean, it's like a real document in most part, but they've put these little bits in there that are just funny and like give a nod to the conspiracy theory, and Roswell stuff. So they put this out. They posted a picture of two people signing it like in this weird blank room with just a table. And there's even a video on Facebook where they made the announcement, but they made the video look like an old announcement would be if something bad was happening. Like it has the countdown thing at the front, it counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when the guy's talking, like it gets all grainy and, like it's getting messed up and that sort of thing. So it's funny and it's interesting. And they really have just grasped this whole make fun of the conspiracy theory thing with both hands.
I don't know how to take this. I don't know how to take this.
It's very different, but I did print this out. You'll have to look at it. It's pretty interesting.
Do your homework on the Denver airport, people.
So they are really going to be sister airports, and I think that they have worked together in the past. I believe that there's a statue. They each have a statue by the same artist that go together, but there's one in each airport.
Because that's not weird at all.
No, I know.
I mean, Roswell's not really anything, though. I mean, people use that because of the crash, 1947, all that stuff. But, if they really want to throw poop at us or something, like,
right.
Why don't they just do Area 51? I mean, they fly those guys in there from Las Vegas, and we've seen that before. So they could do it from the Vegas airport or whatever, and, there's, what was it, the red and white planes or whatever.
Something, they're very distinctive.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know. I don't know if they do anything there at all now that they've come out and actually, after 50 years of not, or 70 years or whatever, not admitting it.
Right.
All of a sudden they're like, yeah, it's real. But sorry about lying all those years, but we really don't do anything crazy there. And it's just like, no. I mean, you just know, I'm sorry, every day. Did you cheat on me? No. Did you cheat? No. Over and over and over. And then after, I don't know, 10 years. Well, yeah, I did, but I love you. And, I thought about you. I mean, I don't know. It's just, you can't win me back now. And we already knew it was the truth. You could have told me then.
Right.
So no, government, it's just not going to work. And throwing this stuff out there, I'm telling you, they are totally making it funny so they can have their late night comedians,
right?
Make fun. Just one more layer to all this bull crap, man. Oh man, I really want to be standing there. I want to be standing there in front of everyone when we land on the White House lawn. I just want to see it. Like, right. I would like there to be an accidental UFO crash on the busiest freeway with 1,000 cameras, just somewhere like that.
Somewhere very much where they can't hide it.
Where you cannot hide it.
Right.
Just it like, wouldn't it be cool if it crashed in the middle of like Gillette Stadium during a game? And it's just like, what would they do? What would they do? All these cameras. And even if it wasn't for the cameras, all the people.
Yeah, with their cameras.
Yeah. I mean, it would be all over the place. That's what we need somehow, but the aliens don't want that to happen because they've got their pact. But it would be, if we're going to have a wreck, a crash, that's what we need.
Yes, I agree.
Anyway.
All right. Well, let's move on to this next story. And here's something else you can maybe rant about. And this is an interesting story that was on Vox.com about the haunted doll markets.
Yes.
On eBay and Etsy.
I sent you that for you because I know that's something, we've got Scarefest coming up in September where we're going to be guests and we'll be speaking, by the way, for get your tickets now. But I know that's something you were like, well, I think I'll get one this year or whatever. But go ahead.
Well, this is a really interesting story. And they talk about how people have really, the market for haunted dolls has really stepped up. And that dolls, are labeled as either active or highly active. And that some are advertised, being able to move objects or make noises or communicate or whatever. And they spoke to this one man who's a paranormal investigator that collects haunted dolls and asked him his opinion about it. And he claims, they're not for everyone. That he says that, if you get one that's really haunted, it really can cause activity in your home. And, I know that eBay has really cracked down on what you can sell on eBay as associated with haunted things. You can't really sell a haunted doll and say that it has a spirit attached to it because that's against their rules, because they consider that selling a soul, and I think that's really specifically against the rules. So a lot of people don't sell on eBay anymore. They went to Etsy and they talked to this one woman named Cat Blowers.
Her name's Cat Blowers?
It may not be pronounced. It's spelled Blowers. It might be Blowers, but it's spelled Blowers. She has an Etsy shop called Fugitive Cat Creations. Called Fugitive Cat Creations. She specializes. She specializes in haunted dolls. And she takes it very seriously.
Does she?
She claims.
How could she take anything serious?
She claims that there are a lot of con artists out there that will sell you something that's not truly haunted. But supposedly,
it's not Cat Blowers, by God.
When she gets a new doll, when she first brings it into her home, she takes 2 or 3 months to test it and check on it. And she says that she separates it from all other of the objects in her house, puts it by itself. They do a lot of different like EMF tests on it. She puts what she calls in a sound box. She's saying basically it's like this foam box with a recorder where she leaves it in there by itself where there's nothing else going on, and then checks to see if there's any words or phrases on that. She said one time she heard music on it, which she thought was really weird. And she said that they conduct what they call lucid dreaming sessions where they sleep next to the doll and an amethyst crystal, because amethyst heightens dreams. I mean, it's just like having a doll in your bed, but yeah, very creepy. And they record if they have any weird dreams or anything like that. And she writes up this really long report. And if it turns out that this is haunted, if, any kind of activity they get, then she can list it on her site or whatever. And you can buy an actual haunted doll.
Right.
Now, these aren't like those dolls where they create them to look scary. These are just dolls, like porcelain dolls and, regular dolls, the really creepy ones that aren't supposed to be haunted, but possibly are.
Right.
So it's a very interesting article. It's an interesting read about, what to look for, what not to look for, how popular it is now. And I know that there was a point in time where we ran into some people that purposely took stuff to haunted locations with them to try and make them haunted, and then would sell them.
It was a big deal.
So I don't know.
They love doing that. They would take them, and I think we went to Waverly with some people like that too, or they were there when we were there or something one time. And, but yeah, they would take them inside and let them.
And then purposely tried to get them haunted so they could sell them. So I'm not sure how we feel about that in particular.
Well, I mean, it's just like people saying that they have all these haunted objects or something, and probably, and I hate to say this, but it happens. There was to say that they went into a thrift store and just bought a bunch of them up, and all of a sudden they, there's 50 haunted items and all this stuff. I mean, I really love what like Zach does. Zach Bagans, he's got the place where he buys these things that what they are. Like a lot of them are like famous and or just gruesome and macabre and scary to even think of. A lot of them are like, Charles Manson's toothbrush or something, things like that. And I like that because there's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of, how could there not be in a lot of those objects? But when it's objects or things that that could be from anywhere that I don't know about. And especially when you're selling these objects and you're not trying to keep them in a museum for people to come see or something like that. I think it's horribly reckless to sell anything that you do think would be haunted. Now, there's two schools of thought there, and I don't like either one, because either you're selling a fake object that you know that is a sham, and that is horrible, and you should be drawn and quartered with Shetland ponies.
Right.
As I've said before, I don't want you to die. I just want some, discomfort.
Right.
And the other thing is, what if you're selling something that you have proven has something attached to it? It's not in the doll, honey. It's attached to the doll. And that thing is strong enough to break boundaries. It's obviously, the construct for it is not in a house. It's on that doll. Probably pretty protective of the doll. And would love to not be connected to the doll and rather be connected to a human, maybe a little girl or something like that. I don't know. I'm just saying, I think it's horribly irresponsible to profit off possibly selling a soul connected to a some kind of doll or anything, really.
Right.
It's just weird. It's just, I don't agree with making money off that. I think that if anything, if you want to make money because you have to keep your building open, then put them in a museum, have people come see them. But don't sell things over the internet, people, and don't buy things over the internet like this. I mean, have you not heard about the Dybbuk box? I mean, seriously.
Bad things happen. Yes. Well,
if you don't listen to any warnings that we give, listen to this one, okay? Imagine as fun as it sounds and as macabre as it sounds, and I've got a daughter in there that we had on the show earlier that stuff like that sounds so cool to her. She would, without any blinking, she'd be like, heck yeah, I want that, gruesomely. She wouldn't want the doll.
No, she hates dolls.
She hates dolls. But the gruesomely haunted toothbrush, she would think that was really cool. But there's a lot of people out there like that. Here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there like that have not went through a severe haunting. When you have a severe haunting in your home and you just can't get away from it, and you go through the stages of oppression, to risk that for something cool is just preposterous to me, because it tells me that you really haven't been through something that is that invasive as a severe haunting. So I don't know. If you ever listen to anything we ever tell you or warn you about, bringing an item in that you have no clue about is probably on the top of my list.
Well, I have a couple schools of thought. Now, in the article, they did talk to the one guy that has the collection, and he did say that, he's the one that said that having haunted objects is not for everyone. And I think he even had an example where he had given a doll to some girl, and because she really wanted a haunted doll, and she ended up sending it back to him because when she got it, it was not pleasant. Like, bad things happened. And when he had it, it wasn't like that. So she sent it back to him, and he just put it up in a box and like keeps it sealed up now. Like, he doesn't even take the doll out. But
it's what you make it a lot. You're right. I mean, it's not for everybody. It's obviously going to be a big part of your life.
Right.
To do that and the protections you have to use. It's like we were talking about the Shinto shrine. Okay. To some people, that's a very docile, wonderful, it's beautiful, all this stuff, the running water, everything that's been done there. Wow, this is cool. It's just a good experience. For other people, depending on what you might have going in, me and Stacey talk about this a lot. It's one of the things that, we liken to the fact of a trip on drugs. Going into any haunting, right? Any kind of investigation. If you go in and you just had a fight with your old lady, and you've just lost your job and you're coming off alcohol, probably not a good time to go into a haunted location. You're like, you might as well get a tattoo on your back saying open for business,
Attach here.
Yeah, attach
like
here.
A big circle.
Boom. But if you go in, you're level-headed. I know Stacey a lot of times will just shut the hell up and on the way and close her eyes, try to ease her mind, and a lot of times she's a different person on an investigation. She's she tries to keep herself measured, and it's just to keep that out. And she, Stacey don't get attachments because she's measured. I go in there with my pants unzipped and, hollering as loud as I can and climbing the walls and, blowing a kazoo. I mean, and I get attachments. So
they hate the kazoo.
They do.
That's what it is. But I was also going to say that you have to be really wary when you look at stores like that, because if you think about it, how many actual legitimate haunted dolls could you really find, in an area? Like, obviously they're not all going to be legitimate.
Do you really want my real answer on that? Because I'm critical. Mm-hmm. I'm not critical of the majority of everything in the paranormal. And I've said that many times. And everybody listens to this. They know just about everything. I'm like, yep, that's possible. Yep, probably is. I mean, always. Mm-hmm. I was kind of on the fence about Bigfoot until I wasn't. And then, there's very few things. Crop circles, all for it now. Just because you learn as you go. But the haunted dolls, okay, I have a problem with haunted objects for the most part anyway, but I do get the curse of objects, and I do get that. I do. But the haunted dolls thing as a business model, it's I don't know.
Yeah, slippery slope there.
I mean, unless you are personally maybe doing what you said and
haunting them
yourself,
like making them haunted. Yeah. So I don't know, but it's still an interesting article. I'll link to it so everybody can go and read it.
And let me just put this out there though. Okay, let's just say cat blowers is the most upstanding person on the planet, and cat blowers goes out to these places and actually finds these haunted dolls and brings them back, does the test, everything. It's completely legitimate. And cat blowers finds, actual haunted dolls and wants to put those dolls in a home somewhere with people that are wanting this. And after all the work that cat blowers does, maybe cat blowers is legit. And, it's one of those things that we don't know. And I don't presume to know.
No, me either.
Because I don't want anything to do with a haunted doll. So
no, me neither.
I've had my share of haunted objects in my field for the rest of my life. I do not need any more. I had a haunted sword. How you doing, Rick? And that son of a bitch caused me quite a bit of that, the worst year of my life. And yes, it's my fault. Don't touch the sword. I touched the sword, taunt the sword, and I have the worst year of my life. And a Dybbuk box, which Stacey says, don't touch the Dybbuk box.
Don't touch that.
And I touched the Dybbuk box, mess with the Dybbuk box, open the Dybbuk box, and I have a very rough time from that. So I don't want anything to do with dolls. So cat blowers, if you're listening, possibly it's the most legit thing in the world. And I don't want anything I say to come off as crass and judgmental. My opinion of it is I just don't see the possibility of that being a business model, being that you're selling so many haunted. I just don't see how there could be that many that you're finding.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, let's move on. I have a few more stories here, a couple of interesting little tidbits. And this one is about a Maryland woman whose dream inspired lottery numbers that paid off.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So she started using combinations of the numbers 4, 8, 11, 21, and 27 to play the lottery. Hold on a second.
What were they again?
They've already hit now.
Okay.
But she had a dream 24 years ago.
Wow.
24 years. And for the entire 24 years, she has been playing different combinations of those numbers. with the lottery. So she purchased a ticket bearing those numbers for the May 2nd bonus match 5 drawing, but she forgot that she had bought it. So later she bought an identical ticket. So she had 2 identical tickets for the same lottery drawing, and each of those tickets earned her $50,000.
Wow.
And she had some partial matches for some other tickets that she had purchased. So her total winnings were $101,600. All from numbers that some man gave her in a dream and told her they were her lucky digits, 24 years ago.
Well, I mean, there's persistence for you.
Yes. I mean, I would have gave up after the first couple of times. Like if I had played them and I didn't win, I'd been like, oh, well.
I disagree.
You don't think
I don't think you would. I think I know you well enough. I think if you had the dream and the man gave them to you, that would drive you freaking bananas the rest of your life. You would leave your family, you'd be in a forest somewhere, and we would go looking for you, and on every tree it would be like 4, 8, 11, 21, 27.
No, to see, my luck would be I'd play them all the way up until like the week before they came up, and then I'd give up, and then the next week they would show up and I would not win any money.
I want to do some combinations, like 27 minus 21 plus 11, just to see if it ends up being any of it. Could be 24, because it's been 24 years.
Ah, I see. I don't know, maybe.
A couple combinations like that, just to see if I can do that, or if I could get 2019 out of it somehow, or something to do somehow with May or
May 2nd or something.
Something like that. Was it May 2nd?
It was the May 2nd drawing.
Oh my God, it was our day. Wow.
So interesting, though. It's interesting that she kept at it.
Yeah,
all these
that's
years.
really cool.
All right, well, let's move on to this next story. And this is an article titled "The World's Most Depressing Sports Competition Has Coffins for Prizes." Are you okay?
I'm bleeding.
Bleeding from where?
My belly button.
Hold on. All right, so we had to stop recording there for a second because John had blood all over his stomach in his belly button area, and we have no idea where it came from. We were just recording, and I guess he felt a tickling sensation, and so he put his hand down there on his stomach, and when his hand came back, there was blood on it. He had to use a napkin to soak it up, and there's quite a bit, but there's no cut, no bump, no scratch, no pain, doesn't hurt. There was just some blood dripping on him, and now it's gone.
Yeah, I don't think it's bleeding now. I don't know, man. That's really strange. I didn't have any kind of cut or anything in my belly button.
No.
So I don't know. I have a deep belly button. It's definitely an innie, and it goes in like all the way to my back.
Right, but you think if you were injured, there would be
pain
or something. Oh, it's been a weird night.
There's no pain. There was a puddle of blood in my belly button,
and it was dripping out.
Yeah. It was tickling me.
All right, well, let's continue. We're almost done, so let's just push through to the end here. You gonna be okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's just a very strange.
It's very disturbing.
I don't hurt at all. I mean, it's nothing. There's no scab. There's no hole. There's no anything. So where did the blood come from?
I have no idea.
Is that even my blood?
I don't know. It's very strange.
We were talking about one of our severe hauntings. I talked about the cursed objects. Mm-hmm. And
kind of poo-pooed on the dolls.
I very much poo-pooed on the dolls, but I talked about like 2 serious things I dealt with. Mm-hmm. And, as I'm talking about, right as I'm done, it's like a tickle feeling. And I just took my finger down there because it was tickling, and it was like wet. And I was like, well, that's weird. I thought I was sweating or something. And
right.
I pulled my finger out, and there's still blood on my finger.
Yeah. No, I can see it.
From where I pulled it out.
All right. Well, let's push through these last few stories, and then we'll try and check you out a little better. All right. So this is the story about the world's most depressing sports competition that has coffins for prizes. So it's called the Coffin Cup.
Of course it is. I would be disappointed if it was called something else.
It's a yearly tournament. It's a yearly futsal tournament.
It's a what?
A futsal tournament. And it's in the Peruvian city of Juliaca.
Peruvian.
So it's in Peru.
Yeah.
So I had to look up what futsal was because I didn't know.
Well, good. I'm not the only one.
And it's a variant of soccer. Of course, they call football over there, but it's played on a hard court. It's smaller and it's indoors. So it's sort of like a 5-on-5, 5-a-side, I think is what they call it. So it's a tournament that is between teams representing the 12 largest funeral houses in that region of southeastern Peru.
Wow.
So that's the reason they give coffins as prizes, because it's a whole, funeral home kind of tournament thing. And
That's cool. Those guys never get to have fun.
no, I know. And it says if it wasn't depressing enough, the teams competing choose thematic names for themselves like Last Goodbye and Eternal Dream and Rest in Peace, stuff like that. So they make it fun. And the top prize for the winning team was a luxury coffin, which is valued at about $1,300 American.
Wow, I really want to hear Wink Martindale say that.
And the second and third place teams also received coffins, but just cheaper models.
Yeah.
And the organizers declared themselves proud of being the first to offer coffins as prizes in a sports competition, and they promised to put even more expensive ones on the line next year. So pretty interesting.
That's one of the most macabre things I've ever heard. But
so I assume that the 5 guys that win, they take their coffin. I suppose they could use it for their business. I don't know how 5 guys could share one coffin unless they just sold it and split the money.
Peru is a very strange place.
It really is. It really is.
It always has been.
But it's interesting. I mean, do you think that the funeral homes there really have rivalries like that? Like,
Dude, it's Peru where they find alien mummies in the Peruvian desert and the old the abandoned mining settlements in the desert and stuff. I mean, it's there's a lot of crazy stuff there.
There is. And now there's a tournament where you could win a coffin.
Right, which is cool. Like I said, man, what joy do those people ever have?
True.
I mean, they're always looked at with like kids are scared to death of them.
Right.
I mean, I would have fun with that. I would just be like, and scared.
At least they have something to look forward to every year, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, that's a job that people should respect a lot more. I think we should pay people that do funeral homes like all the money, because it's got to be horribly depressing, like to see death all the time.
A little bit scary.
Yeah,
a little bit scary.
I mean, just being around death it's not for me.
No,
I know that like our friends that do it, that have the funeral home, they tell us, you kind of get it's just numb to it, but I don't want to get numb to dead bodies.
No, I agree. Okay, so let's move on to this next story about a Mongolian couple who have died of the bubonic plague.
Oh no.
Yes, the Black Death. And the reason that they contracted the plague was they ate marmot raw, which is kind of like a groundhog.
Yeah, I know what it is. Why?
Well, they consumed the raw meat and kidney of a marmot because it's believed by some to be a folk remedy for good health, funny enough. And they contracted the bacteria that causes the bubonic plague, and they both died on May 1st, and a quarantine was issued in that province, and even people that were just visiting there couldn't leave because it's very contagious, highly contagious.
Yeah, it's the Black Death, dude. I mean, as far as pandemics or whatever go, it was the bubonic plague went through the air and through touch.
And it's easily combated with antibiotics if you have it. But I suppose they didn't have any idea, and they did disperse antibiotics to the people that they were quarantined, and as no more cases emerged, so they did lift the quarantine and let everybody go on their way. But that is just, I didn't even know that was a thing that could happen.
It still happens, but it's very isolated when it does happen, and usually it's because morons eat, giant rats. But I
think I read that it's really concentrated mostly to like Central Asia areas.
But I mean, when the Black Death took most of Europe out, and what a terrifying time that was, because it's, again, we can't even imagine, but you could go to sleep healthy and not wake up. That's how quick it could spread.
Yeah.
And like I said, it went through the air, it went through touch. I mean, it was just like whole families would just get wiped out overnight, and they called it the Black Death because of the they would get huge black boils, which are just weird and don't really make sense anyway, with pus coming out and just horrific, man. So public service announcement, a little PSA from John and Stacey. Please don't eat rodents.
Raw, especially.
Yeah. I mean, or at all.
Yeah.
Has it got that bad? I mean, do you really need a folk remedy to that level?
I mean, I'm not against folk remedies, but you got to use some common sense.
Yeah.
Some common sense.
Right.
Don't eat raw meat like that.
If it was common, everybody would have it.
So let's move on to our last story. And I believe you shared this one on our Facebook page because it was just
too good, bro.
It was
we were going to air. Okay. We were going to record, and sometime 10 years ago, and fate would have it that we had to pause for about 5 minutes. And I checked the internet and just to see what's going on, and this story popped up like fate.
So this is a story about a man named Timothy Drennan. He's from Klamath County, Oregon, and he's in jail after allegedly telling police that Sasquatch was threatening him with an axe.
Wow.
So he says that an unnamed man, at first he said an unnamed man was trying to kill him with an axe, but after the deputies arrived, he said that it was Sasquatch and that was the one who attacked him. And so they arrested him, and he's being held on charges of misuse of 911 and making a false report.
See,
so they have immediately assumed that Sasquatch did not try to kill him with an axe.
Man.
No trial or anything, just put him right in jail.
Okay, look. All right. This dude's in Oregon.
Right.
All right. That's one of the Sasquatch Centrals. You know what I mean? That's an OG Sasquatch area.
Right.
So just like I was talking about the scat jokes, you know, I mean, this is the same like Sasquatch that could definitely be. I mean, why not use an axe? If there was an axe laying there.
There's a picture of the man right there.
Okay. Yeah. He was on drugs. But again, Oregon, right? So more than likely he was on drugs. But regardless, Sasquatch could have had an axe.
Could have. And could have threatened him.
I mean, listen, we're all going to feel really stupid if Sasquatch starts going through town with a freaking axe.
That's right.
You know, if we finally get to see the hard proof of Bigfoot, wouldn't it be freaking awesome if it was Bigfoot like riding a lawnmower with an axe and just right through the middle of town, and just
there you go.
Just he would stop at each store and just go in and hack and slash and get back on the
He's
lawnmower.
Just tired of the humans.
Yeah,
now.
just done with it.
I'm done. I'm ready to take it back.
Absolutely done with it.
All right. Well, that is all my news.
Wow.
I think we finally made it.
I can't believe it. I mean, it's my God, what a weird episode.
Like how many things could happen during one recording of an episode?
I'm almost scared that because we're not done yet. That's what I'm scared of. Listen, folks, paranormalsideshow.com is where you go for everything. I don't even have the gusto in me to do anything crazy. Go listen to Jim Harold's Ghost Insight to hear John and Stacey on there, and Till Death and Beyond, The Haunted Journey of John and Stacey Edwards on Amazon is a great place to purchase that, or just go to paranormalsideshow.com where you'll find the newsletter and you'll find everything. For my lovely, beautiful wife, Stacey, my name's John, and so long from the Sideshow.
Good night.